Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Lone Wolf Paintball. Lone Wolf Paintball is an online supplier that has been around for a very long time. They've actually been Michigan's premier paintball field and supplier since 1987. Now expanding into the online retail store, they are really trying to do their best to supply everything you need to the paintball community. They have it all. You get over to lonewolfpaintball.com. If you want Field 1, HK, GI, Dye, it doesn't matter. They got it. You can surf the website. You can check it out. They have what you need, guaranteed. And they also boast excellent customer service and same-day shipping. That's pretty badass. You could go to the website, order something, and it's going to be sent out that day. That's fantastic. That's amazing customer service. So again, guys, if you would like, you could head over to lonewolfpaintball.com. You could also check them out on YouTube and Instagram. Their Instagram is Lone Wolf PB, and their YouTube is Lone Wolf Paintball. And you can see and keep up to date with all their latest deals, their sales, their content. It's a lot of really fun stuff. Play the Game Podcast is excited to have them on board, and you guys should head over and become part of the community. All right. This episode is brought to you by G2 Paintball. G2 Paintball is back, and you guys should be incredibly excited. If you are in the area, in Arizona or anywhere on the West Coast, you want to make sure you do not miss this. Being in paintball shape is one of the most important things to being a top-level player. Not just a top-level pro, but a top-level player in any division. If you are trying to win tournaments, you want to be in the best physical condition possible. Paintball is so physically demanding. It requires so much of your physical ability, and G2 Paintball is designed to help you maximize that potential both on and off the field. G2 Paintball played a huge role in our World Cup win. It pays dividends to get out there and do these exercises, do these kinds of training. It is so difficult. It is very tough, but it is going to put you in position to win events, and that's what we're here to do. I teach this at all of my clinics. I always preach the importance of physical fitness in paintball ability. You can get all the way to the finals, but if you are only at 60% and a less talented, less skilled, less experienced team is at 90 or 100%, they are likely going to beat you. Do not let your physical ability be the reason you guys are not winning events. Get signed up for G2. If you guys are in the area, make sure you get active, get involved. It is owned and operated by Victor Gamboa and Rusty Glaze. You have players like Tyler Harmon, myself, Ryan Greenspan, all part of the entire G2 program. You guys can stay up to date with everything at g2paintball.com, and we hope to see you at an event very soon. This episode is brought to you by Transfuse. Transfuse is the only all-natural electrolyte drink that you guys need to have in your cabinets. We love this stuff. We've been using this for an entire season now. This stuff is amazing. I feel great when I drink Transfuse. I drink it every single day. I don't go a day without putting a packet of Transfuse in my water. It's very easy, very portable, easy to travel with, and delicious to drink, which means that you're going to love drinking it and you're going to drink more of it, which is going to be incredibly beneficial to your health. Has magnesium, potassium, sodium, which are all amazing for proper hydration. It has zinc, vitamin C, vitamin B, and choline. These things are incredible cognitive enhancers and immune boosting formulas that you don't want to miss out on, especially in times like this. I'm telling you, I drink Transfuse every single day. I love it. Tyler does as well. Anybody who has tried it has been just pouring with great feedback back to us. There's a reason that they're at all the NXL events, and a lot of the top teams and top professionals are using this product. Do not walk around dehydrated. I never realized how dehydrated I was, even when I was drinking all sorts of water. It's not enough. You need the proper nutrition. You need the right ingredients. Transfuse has done a great job of curating the perfect formula. Transfuse is absolutely spectacular, and for all of our listeners, there is a special deal for any Play the Game listener. If you head over to translabs.com, that's TRANZLABS.com, and use code PLAYTHEGAME at checkout, you will get 10% off. If you subscribe, which means they auto ship you your package every single month, whatever you want, whatever type, whatever flavor, whatever electrolyte formula you desire, they will give you an additional 11% off. So it becomes a 21% discount exclusively for all Play the Game listeners. Huge, huge shout out, and we are incredibly thankful for our supporters. And if you guys would like to go support them, it's translabs.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME. What's going on, PTG fam? Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. This episode, we have Quinn Nadu of Iconic Paintball. Quinn is a absolute paintball patron. He's doing some really amazing things for the sport and providing us a platform to preserve and share stories of all of the greats that have come before us and are currently doing it to dominate in professional paintball. Quinn offers a ton of insight into the game, and he watches every single match. He is putting in a lot of work to tell amazing stories. So getting to sit down and have him on the show was our honor and quite a blessing. Without further ado, we're going to hop in the show.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon.
Great shot by all the guys. So Tyler Harmon saved that game.
He came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
All right, Quinn Nadu, the man behind the scenes of Iconic Paintball, bringing all the fresh, hot stories and preserving the history of the game. Love what you're doing, man. Thank you for joining us on the show. How are things going?
It's going great, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I've been, pretty much a long time listener since the first episode way back when in 2020.
Let's go.
I love everything you guys do, and apparently everyone else does, because you guys won the Creator of the Year award this year from us. That's huge, man. I mean, we talk to a lot of people when we do these community-based awards, and it was close, but you guys came out on top. I mean, you guys are producing great content. You've really been great at preserving the history of the game and just fostering a community within the sport that's really built on, positivity and, kind of keeping everyone together during those tough COVID times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're the lucky ones. When we started this, it was like, we didn't have paintball. We didn't have anything. So I was like, how can we keep playing paintball? So we're like, all right, we gotta start a show, play the game, and, totally. We are just so grateful for this community. Everybody who tunes into the show and supports Play the Game podcast. It means the world to us. Quinn, everything you're doing for the game is tremendous. And, we have so many amazing people in the sport right now doing big things in the game. There's a huge buzz around paintball. People are loving paintball more than ever. And we're seeing that in the internet on, all the platforms are getting really big hits on all the stuff. And just to be mentioned in the same breath as the nominees that we're next to, like Rye Guy, crushing it with the media, Verb, Kwitsky, Dan Napoli. And, we just have so much respect for our peers and are honestly driven and inspired by those people. So to be in, like I said, the same breath as those people is tremendous. And we're just super grateful for everything that you're doing and to, have brought that award home to the PTG family, because that's who that's for. It's all about the community, and that's what we're doing it for.
Yeah,
man,
I mean,
absolutely.
Also, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
I was, I've been in the game a long time. I have a huge collection of like every kind of media that's ever been out, and I think this year, truly for the first time in a long time, I'm really starting to feel that kind of experience and excitement again that I did when I was a kid. Getting to open up a magazine and read it. Obviously now in the digital age, it's in a little bit different of a form. You know what I mean? Every week when you guys come out with an episode, or Carl or any of these guys, it feels like I'm running to the store to get the, the new PT or PB2X or Face.
Yeah.
It kind of feels the same way, man. You're getting that experience. And I think it's great that it's back.
Love it.
Yeah. So got to throw major love to, Chris Diltz and Chris Haas for making the famous book.
Yes.
I got that sitting over there on my coffee table. And honestly, I was like, man, there's no way we're going to beat that, and like you said, Ty, all the nominees were pretty fantastic, but I feel like what they did was incredibly special. I think we'll look back on that book in, 10, 15 years, and it's going to be just even more iconic. You know what I mean? Yeah, that must've been tough. I wouldn't have been, wanting to be in your position, having to decide on that, or anyone that was in that position. In the future, I was curious. I know I've had some photographers, kind of reach out and they're like, hey, I think it would be cool if you recommended, like, maybe we have an on-field category, right? That's like just for paintball media, just for photographers and videographers. Yeah. Right. And then, maybe, and this is only the hope. I mean, I think this year it's probably hard because there's only really a couple of shows, right? You've got Carl's, you have us, you have the Spick and Span show. That's really it. So kind of hard to do awards based around that, but hopefully more and more shows will pop up. I would love to see teammates, I guess I shouldn't say that. There are some other podcasts like the Overshot podcast. I think that's in your
Yeah,
area,
you have
right? Quinn?
Overshot. Yeah, that's Waldo out here that runs the TSXL. You know,
Yep.
I like his show a lot too, because he does a lot of divisional guys and local guys. And I
Yeah.
think for East Coasters
Right.
like me, you know, you kind of get a cool insight of these guys you see at the field all the time.
Yeah, dude, I totally biffed that. Major shout out to Dan Napoli. Love you, but it's Dilts and Haas, and I'm so sorry about
and
that.
Dan Meridian too. It's Chris, Dan, and Dan.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep, Dan Meridian, Chris Dilts, Chris Haas. Major shout out to them.
Yeah, man, and that book really was
that.
incredible, man. I mean, like every time I open that book, you almost just get like goosebumps because that was, you know, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that was truly like the golden era of the sport when you're talking like 2001 to like 2005. And the fact that they had those lost reels and these unseen by any eyes before photos. I mean, there was periods from, you know, the early excessive days, they had stuff no one had ever seen. And even me as like a massive excessive fan, that was just incredible to me, you know?
Yeah, I know that story was huge. I remember growing up in Modesto with the whole excessive camp, Rich Telford out of there, and watching from day one as that was built. You know, I remember the day Thomas came out to the field for his first time. And, you know, that was when it all started. They started working together and the rest was history. But it was crazy because, you know, he was fresh out of like being a firefighter with the Mohawk. And he's like, I'm ready to take over the paintball world. And man, he really came in with a fury for paintball.
That's for sure, man. He's still doing it now. I mean, you know, his team Infamous they looked really good this year. I mean, they're in the running for team of the year. You know, of course they couldn't secure that event win, but I mean, you know, a couple little things, you know, and you know, one little mistake at the first event, and you're actually talking, they win that event and then the season title along with that, they would have put it out of reach with that win.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was big in that event for them. I mean, he's been doing it 20 years. He's been, you know, dominating the paintball world.
Yep. Major shout out to Thomas Taylor, legend.
100%. He's the man.
He is.
Yeah. That was a tough loss for them because it's really hard to win an event. And it's even more rare to be, you know, given an opportunity to win, to be in the finals, to be in those situations, to have those moments. And they were up bodies against Impact almost every point, you know, and, that one definitely slipped away. I know their whole organization probably looks back to that one like that's the one of the year, and especially for Greg too, you know, because Greg had an outstanding year. It's his last year. We had him on the show. I think it was before the season started. And he kind of let everyone know that it was going to be his last season, and he went out with a bang.
That on your show.
Yeah, he did indeed, which was super cool. PTG, number one place to get all your news, all your hot stories,
and Iconic Paintball, absolutely.
And Iconic Paintball, 100%.
Well, hey man, we both like to get it straight from the source. You know what I mean?
That's it. That's what I love about you.
Yes. I see some rumors out there that are just, I'm like, where did you guys even get this? Where did this come from? I think I was telling you before the show, my divisional team, they always send stuff. I don't know where they find these screenshots of like some random person on Facebook that posts this stuff as if it's fact. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not true. I guess I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's not
honestly,
true.
I'm as stumped as you are. Like, I had a guy messaging me yesterday telling me that Revo's calling it quits. And I'm like, I just talked to Henry a week ago, and that is 100% not the case. And you know, he's arguing with me about it. I'm like, you know, I don't know where y'all get this stuff, man. But.
Yeah. That's funny. I had a similar situation. Somebody was arguing the same thing with me. I'm like, we just had Henry on the show. I don't think so. Yeah. Pretty sure they're not calling it quits.
Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, you know, they're looking to make big moves.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know, I can't imagine they're going to go that route. So
yeah, totally.
But hey, while we're talking about that infamous game, I think that's a good time to get into the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, which is our Snake Player of the Year award.
All right.
Because arguably, you know, one of the top snake guys in the world was critical in that game for them. I mean, when you look at that game with what Alex Goldman was able to do, I mean, he was able to play a snake side of the field that was very difficult to find success on. And I mean, he just completely dominated that side. And really, he's the difference maker for them getting that event win, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. The way Mouse played that snake side was really special to see, especially one is like a really good friend of his that likes to see his success unless it's against us in the event. It was cool to see him have that gear because he wasn't very aggressive at all. I mean, you know, some of the big plays that he made were on moves, but it was like from the snake corner into the snake one, just kind of a counterpunch style of play, which isn't traditional for how Mouse plays. Mouse is always on your side of the field, right? That's what he's known for. He's really good at it. He's one of the best in the business.
He tricked him. He tricked him in that game.
He tricked him. Yeah, totally.
I mean, one thing, Marcelo, I wanted to hear from you as well. Obviously you're super close to Mouse. I think a lot of people love to talk about his athleticism and his speed and everything. But really, to me, what makes him a great snake player is his paintball IQ. I mean, I really think his level of knowledge in this game is underrated. I mean, can you comment on, his kind of IQ in the game a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I think that might only be the perception from people that don't understand paintball. I think anyone that truly understands the game knows that Mouse has a really high paintball IQ. He's been doing it for so long. He's seen so many different situations. He's been in those moments so many times. He gets it. He knows exactly what's going on. And his game the cerebral side of his game has definitely developed even more in the last couple seasons. For sure. You've seen it go from, elite to he's in the conversation as like, is this the best player this year? Is this the best snake player of all time? Is this, the things that he's been able to accomplish? And again, that's why that first event in Orlando, to me, I was like, okay, that's a great staple on your career to be able to do it in that fashion on a snake side that was really slow. Everybody was giving all the credit to the center and the Dorito side, and he still was able to step up and outclass the other team in more of a defensive posture. Right. He still made the game-winning moves were from attacking, but it was still from a defensive posture,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was excellent, a huge fan of Mouse, of course, one of my best friends, so like to see him do well anytime that it's not against us,
I gotta
same
add
as my
my
boy Ty.
yeah. I got to add my 2 cents in because Mouse is an absolute monster. And I've known Mouse for a really long time as well. And I'll never forget when we were on Aftermath together, kind of training with him, playing basketball, picking his brain and really getting the insights on what makes Mouse tick. And he's just such a determined person. He's so driven, when he gets his mind set on something, and you're going to be hard pressed to outwork him too, because the guy is working relentlessly, which is what it takes to be the best at anything. If you're going to be the best at paintball or art or business or whatever it is that you're choosing to do, you have to be working harder than everybody. You got to be really applying yourself. And that's one thing that I took away from that weekend. I was with, shout out to Zach Wake and Dan
Shout out
Wake.
to Wake, dog.
Yeah, we stayed with Wake out in Tennessee. Me, Mouse stayed at Wake's place, and we stayed out there for like a week and just hung out. And
surprised you remember much from that weekend.
Why is that?
You guys had fun. I remember I was so bummed I didn't get to stay.
I know.
Yeah, I was super bummed. Yeah, with the boys, dude. You, Zach, Mouse, man.
Yeah,
out in Tennessee, it's a blast. Yeah.
So I just tons of respect for Mouse, and can't wait to see him to continue to do extremely well in the future.
Yeah, and I mean let's expand on that a bit too. I think this year the Snake Player of the Year award is really contested in the sense that this was a year that snake players really could shine. I mean, you guys know it better than anyone. I mean, those snake layouts on a lot of these fields were built to attack and, get a lot of G's out of that side. Yeah. So it certainly is making it hard for our internal team kind of, going back and forth on who our final 5 nominees are going to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously a guy like Mouse, he's going to get the nod. But, when we come to look at a guy like Chad George on your team, Houston Heat, Tyler, what kind of insight can you give for him as a player? I mean, he's obviously, very athletic. He makes his spots. He has a great survivability rate. I mean, what's it like playing behind him, this year?
Dude, what a treat, honestly, to play as the 2 behind Chad George is like a dream come true, because he is one of the greatest people I've ever met. Like truly one of the nicest people, one of the hardest working, driven, and just really humble too, man. The guy is at a level that most will never see on that side of the field. And due to his body style as well, the guy has a very special body style, almost like a gymnast or something, where he's able to really make these moves, these athletic movements that are spectacular. So to be able to play behind him and do everything that I can do to help support him as a player and give him all the information and make shots for him is really a treat. And, we're going to have a lot of fun moving into 2022. He's going to be attacking it. I know he's hungrier than ever after World Cup, and we're excited to get after it for 2022.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, going on those 2 guys too, I mean, they looked really good all year. I do have to say, though, I think this was a year on the Snake as well. A lot of big names underperformed. There's a lot of guys, there's a lot of guys out there in the league that historically have been elite level snake players that I really think had a bit of a regression of a year. I mean, I know I've kind of talked to, Marcelo about this a little bit, other guys about this a little bit in general. But it certainly makes it hard because certainly when you look at a vote for something like Snake Player of the Year, you bring up a name like Danny Schoenauer, for instance, right away, a lot of people say, who the hell's that guy? That's your first thought. But, a lot of people, don't realize like that's a huge snake player for Columbus LVL. I mean, he went out this year and just balled out for those guys. I mean, Chicago, he was just dominant. And then, brought up a lot of question marks if they can continue that level of play. And then what did he do? He went into World Cup, guys going out there getting like 60, 70% eliminations a lot of these games and just kind of willing his team forward. And a guy like that makes it hard because then, you think of a player like Keith Brown, he certainly had a bit of an underperforming year for sure. Damage started the year really good with that third place finish. And then from there, it kind of just seemed like it went downhill the rest of the season for them. And I felt like every event you're looking at a guy like Keith Brown thinking like, he's going to, really be able to attack through this snake. And, it just wasn't there. Kind of a pro player's perspective of that. What do you think comes along with that, where you kind of just hit that wall a little bit, where these guys kind of struggle to find production?
Marsh?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to say it's coaching because I don't know who actually makes the call over there as far as what Keith does, but I think he has gotten into a position where he tries to preserve his body too much, right? And Keith is a relentless attacker. Let that dude get in the snake and go all the way down. And you would see in some of their matches this year, whether they'd be down points or he would start to get frustrated, it would happen. He would go and be the one, and he has some of the better gun skills in the league, right? And he would utilize that and go and have some big points. Whereas some of the other times it seemed like he didn't want to go down and be the one to trade, right? He wanted to be there to close out the game. And I mean, we can make that similar argument with Mouse at World Cup, right? Just being too conservative with that kind of a player. And I understand that thinking, but I think honestly, this year taught me, and I learned a lot this year. And a lot of that really did come from Alex and some of the older guys on our team of like, dude, you just got to wheel and deal sometimes, don't like preserve your body. Don't think that you're too good to try to make a move, because it creates tons of opportunities for your team. And you said it yourself, these fields have definitely been designed, especially on the snake side, to do that. You have to do that, right? And I feel like that was maybe, since he's gone back to Damage, I feel like he hasn't been that true one on that side. And again, I don't know why that is. So it's hard to say if it's coaching or if it's what he wants or what, but he hasn't been that consistent one.
Yeah, to me, it's a little bit perplexing just because I feel like the way their roster's built out, I mean, it's really built to kind of just have a premier kind of one in the snake that just attacks. I mean, you have Brian Smith typically playing that 2-spot, kind of trailing behind on the snake. So I'm not quite sure why he has that feeling maybe that he needs to preserve himself a little bit because AHSBIZ is always going to come through and kind of be able to clean things up. But again, I really think it made it hard. That's, one of the pieces that made it hard for the Snake Player of the Year discussion we're having right now is because, on face value, you just say a name like Keith Brown, very few people are going to just argue with it. But, we're big here with the awards. We really want to award people on a recency bias. We're looking at this season, we're looking at production through the 2021 year. And I think when you look at production from Keith, I just don't truly personally feel that it's there from a standpoint to look at him for something like Snake Player of the Year.
Yeah, he is one of the best in the business at what he does on that snake side. And, sometimes as an organization, we got to get out of our own way. One of the big things, no matter what you're going to do, if you're going to win tournaments or win in business, you've got to, cut the facade, cut everything out and just get things done. And, especially with the way that the fields are going, like Marcelo said, just being a little bit more malleable to make moves. And, the slow game is going to work. But I honestly, like Marsh said, the uppercuts and the side punches and all these things, these quick moves, they open up so much opportunity for your team. So it's almost more advantageous to just kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit and go get that productivity because it's going to open up some doors for your team out there.
Absolutely. And I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of throwing caution to the wind, I mean, another big guy that has been brutal during this snake player conversation has been your teammate, Alex Frazier.
Yeah.
Because, obviously,
Eggman.
yeah, Eggman, first 2 events of the season, a little underwhelming from him. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, he just, exploded at Chicago. I mean, you're talking, I was kind of following the Dynasty stats through the weekend personally. I mean, this guy was upwards of 70 kills. And he probably played half the points and really kind of just played with like a reckless aggression in a sense.
Yeah.
But again, it makes it hard because when you argue a snake player of the year, I kind of talked to Marcella, I talked to you about this a bit. In general, how do you look at the guys that are playing at a 15 out of 10, but they're only playing half the points on the field? It makes the conversation tough because then in the same sense, you look at a guy like Billy or something who's essentially getting called on every single point for X all season long. It's how do you compare a guy that only plays half the points out of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough, right? And you kind of use an analogy of basketball. My response to that was, if I have a player that gets me 25, 5, and 5 in 18 minutes versus a player that gets me 25, 5 in 35 minutes, I'm going to look at that body of work and the player that only played 18 minutes but still made that production. Maybe you would give him that nod, but then you have to have the discussion of like, what's more valuable, the actual points or how many kills you get within points, that's a totally different discussion. And honestly, I feel like with the way, I was watching a little bit more film, I knew we were going to have some discussions about, some of these topics. And I was watching some of the younger snake players in the league. Someone like Jerry Carl, for example, he's a relentless attacker and he's fantastic, but it's like, okay, why with someone that in some matches, it's like, this is a top 3 snake player in the league. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the reality of some of his matches.
I agree. I mean, this guy goes nuclear.
Sometimes. He does. But I think they're kind of empty stats. And I've realized that, right? It's like, okay, there's you have this relentless attack. So, okay, you're going to break through and shoot 4 or 5 people every so often, and to the naked eye, that looks amazing. You put up points for your team. But doing stuff like Mouse did, the timing of how Mouse played that corner in Orlando, and then he did it again at World Cup against Damage on Saturday, just kind of marinating, knowing when not to attack, being down bodies and still being able to turn the field and that's what separates the players. And that's what brings wins. That's what helps you go deep into Sunday. You can't go deep without those kind of decisions. So then it's like, okay, this is like my LeBron conversation. Actually, I think we've had this talk a little bit. LeBron is like going to be, when he retires, he's going to be, the number 1 scorer, the number 1 this, the number 1 that, the greatest player of all time. To me, he's like top 3, 4, maybe 5. And I know that's kind of crazy. But I'm taking Kobe and Jordan over him any day because 100%. Of how they win in certain moments. It's I watch LeBron so much because unfortunately I'm a Laker fan, and he can get you 45 points in the first 3 quarters and have 15 assists and a bunch of rebounds, and then fourth quarter it's a tie game and he misses the clutch free throws at the end or starts goes 0 for 6 in the last 4 minutes of the game, and his team loses. Now he's hushed some of those criticisms over the years in a few different moments, but not as consistent as Jordan, not as consistent as Kobe. And just the simple eye test, you can see that. So with paintball, you definitely have empty stats. There's players that go down and shoot a bunch of people, but it's like, well, that wasn't the right move. It wasn't the right situation. It wasn't,
Jerry Carl has a teammate that's, to me, the number 1 example of that, of just empty stats.
Who's that?
Harris Hussein. I mean, that guy makes crazy moves all the time. He racks up a lot of kills, but I also see that guy get huge penalties at bad times. Often a lot of his moves come at the issue of dropping his zones on spots, and then he might go through and shoot 2 guys, but he pulled his gun off the Dorito side and let's do a big wave and they shoot out the whole side. I mean, I kind of agree with you on the empty stats thing, because even when you look at a guy like Jerry, we were discussing the game in Philly with them against a Heat. And, it's kind of a similar thing. Jerry was, if you just look at it from a kill perspective, he was the best player on that field. But, the game certainly had a little bit different result. The tournament had a little bit different result. So I definitely agree with you. It's, you know, that's a tough aspect as well, because in the stats we do have, and we can kind of put a tangible value on, you really got to try to have an intrinsic value on them as well, of how much weight do they actually carry. You know, because Marcelo, you're a great example. If I look at you in Chicago, your kill count numbers are probably not very good. But I will argue to death that Dynasty does not win that event without what you did for them that event, playing those really bad spots, and completely zoning off and isolating the best player on the opposing team every game. You know what I mean? So it makes it really tough, I think, with stats sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why survivability and win percentage, I think they called it winfluence back when Paintball Access was doing stats, was so crucial to the overall stat board, you know?
Tyler would be leading winfluence if that was the thing right now.
What is winfluence?
The chance your team has of winning when you're on the field, right? So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was your win percentage when you played versus when you did not.
Well,
the
hopefully someday somebody will bring this winfluence back, and we'll see some of that on the pro field out there.
100%.
We can only hope.
That's it.
But yeah, man, it's a great conversation. I think that's why it's going to be important too, as we go into future seasons. We're really going to need someone to step up and really drive into doing a statistical driven kind of platform in paintball. I think, again, that was a big thing with me with what I did Iconic. It was kind of a way to do pseudo stats, is what I call them. Since we don't have any means of stats to kind of look at and browse through storytelling, I kind of try to tell the story of greatness of these players, because that's kind of, you know, one way to convey and kind of memorialize what guys do at events. But I certainly think coming soon in the future, someone really needs to step up and make the stats thing big again. Because I mean, when PB Access did it, it was incredible, and I think we really need to bring that back.
Yeah, man. And dude, I just want to say, I know this week you had like your fire hose out. You were putting out rumors. I love what you guys are doing at Iconic. I know that, you know, when you make a post, it's something that we can always rely on, and you're always bringing the facts. So we commend you on that, my brother.
Yeah, man. And I'm big on not leaking. I hear it sometimes almost gets infuriating to me, because so many of these stories I see break, I'm thinking like, oh my God, I was talking to this guy about this a month ago. But I don't like leaking stuff, just because I think there's a right way to do things. And I think there's a lot of guys out there willing to do it the wrong way for the sake of, you know, beating the press by half a day. You know, I think it's important to consider in the grand scheme of things, it's important to kind of honor sponsors and kind of teams' relationships with those sponsors when you break news. You know, and you don't want to do anything to kind of, you know, hurt marketing efforts in a sense in that way. You know, and I kind of thought the same with the JT news with you guys. Congrats, by the way. That's an awesome hookup with you guys. I kind of thought the same about that, because you know, that's a huge story, and I think kind of in a sense people so focused on just trying to beat everyone to the news, you know, kind of hoses that down a bit in a sense to me. You know, so I think it's important to do it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're on the topic of rumors, NXL has no plans for limiting paint. I know that's been a big one that everybody's been going crazy over, the paint case amounts, limited paint in games. None of that has any plans of coming to fruition.
Yeah, DMG is not selling their spot.
That's right.
When I read that, I'm like, this is crazy. That program is killing themselves putting in the work right now. Why would they just throw in the towel? You know, they're making progress. And again, too, I've talked around to as many of the paint manufacturers as I could, trying to keep in touch with reps and stuff. I mean, as of now, I don't really have anyone that I consider, you know, a legitimate source that's confirming the 1,600 round cases. To me right now, that's simply a rumor that started with a few field owners. I don't think that's something that's going to attach. Brandon Short at HK have already confirmed 100% that's not the case for them. ProShar appears to be in the same boat as well, that they have no plans.
The case.
Yeah, so,
not the case.
What do you mean? You want to expand on that?
No, like the case, the literal one. You know?
Like
I'm not a
case
good
of paint.
pun guy.
Get it?
But yeah, man, it's yeah, in a punny way, man, it's not the case. To me, I don't think it's a thing. And to me as well, I mean, I've talked to a few guys on this. Say GI or whoever else, no one in particular, decides to do the 1,600 round case. Does that really affect anyone? Is that a big deal? I mean, to be honest, I'm praying they make the bag count a little less, and then we can get 3 full pods out of a bag instead of that weird 3 pods plus a little bit thing that we get right now. You know what I mean? So yeah, but again, I mean, going back to the same thing, man. That's why it's all about doing it right. It's not about the rumor you heard from Bob down at the field on Saturday during drills. You know, it's go to the guys that have the information to get it confirmed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah. Especially, you know, when you're sending it out into the ether of everybody on the internet who's going to see it, and then things just start going haywire.
Yeah, man. I mean, that can affect a lot. You know, I mean, ultimately, you know, Archie did walk away from X Factor and joined San Diego Dynasty, which the team just broke that news. But, you know, people were trying to leak that as early as they could, push that around. You know, that has a case to be damaging, you know, if it's false or incorrect. You know, that can kind of hurt team bonding a little bit and kind of, you know, raise some questions. So I think it's important to be concrete with those things.
Yeah, absolutely. That news just broke. So I guess it'll be yesterday when you hear this, but as we're recording it, maybe 30 minutes before we started this recording, that news just broke. So that's definitely world news right now.
Yeah, and not to even we keep going off on our 50 different tangents.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Archie move just for a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about that, and then we'll get back into the iconic awards.
You're talking about the, you know, I don't even think arguably, you're talking about a top 5 all-time guy. I mean, that guy is good. And he's coming back to San Diego Dynasty, and to me, solving the only problem they had left, which was depth. They had to run a lot of their starters a lot of points, and now you bring in a guy like Archie, who just, in the truest sense of the word, is just versatile. I mean, Tyler, him and you, I think, are in a different class in that category. Him and you are guys you can just plug in anywhere on the field and you're going to get production. And I think now you have something really scary because, you know, now, Marcelo, you don't have to play 50 points in a row out of the can. You know, every couple of points, you can get a different look throwing Archie as a 2-0 on the D side. You know, you can get some looks at him, seeing him in the snake. And I think he opens up a lot of creativity, and with a coach as good as Skinny K, I think that's going to be scary to where we might see another mid 2000s kind of run out of you guys. You know, but I mean, Marcelo, how do you feel knowing that he's going to be on the team? How do you feel you guys are going to utilize him? Because I know, you know, you have a great paintball IQ when it comes to strategy. I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on it.
Yeah, I feel great about it. I think it's a fantastic thing for the organization. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Archie ever since I got to play with him over in Europe in 2019 with the Golden State Kings. It was him, myself, Blake Yarber, Ryan Greenspan. We had Kyle Spica, Johnny Greer, Charlie, owner of the ML Kings. I really grew very fond of Archie. He's dynamite, man. He's, like you said, top 5 all-time player. I think you could definitely make that argument. So I know he's going to bring, you know, not only a big confidence boost to the whole organization, but a lot of knowledge, right? And so it's just another perspective of great ideas and great ways to approach our practices, keep things fresh. It's a really good addition so that we don't get kind of, you know, comfortable and complacent with the year that we just had. I think the team is going to be even hungrier and more motivated because of this. I know Archie as well, you know, he spent a lot of time with X Factor. He gave his whole career to that team pretty much, you know, and brought them, you know, some championships, did a great job. But sometimes a new look, you know, a new opportunity can be incredibly motivating. You know, Ty, I know you understand that as well. It happens in sports. And so I think he's going to bring in a really, you know, freshened perspective. And like I said, we get along so well. You know, we've already kind of experimented with this in 2019. And it feels good. You're right. We could put him anywhere. We're going to have a lot of fluidity on the field. We're going to be able to plug and play in a lot of different spots. And I think the depth is big. You know, this year we really struggled with not just at the events of like playing multiple points, but just having different injuries. You know, our guys are definitely still old, you know, and Archie doesn't help bring that average age down too much. So, you know,
I still say with injuries, man, that event you guys had in Philly, I mean, obviously you didn't win, but that was some real grit. I know you guys love talking about grit all the time. I mean,
of course.
Tora has a broken hand, half your team doesn't have legs under them, and, you know, you guys gritted through it, you know.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you kind of only have one option there. You can roll over and make excuses, which nobody cares about. Nobody really cares about the injuries. I've learned that through the years. People don't care. They don't care if, oh, this guy was hurt at this event or this guy didn't show up to that event, so that's why they lost. They really don't. They care about who wins. That's it. Right. So to make excuses, just gets old. And, again, the reality is addressing that and, adding the depth. And, to me, it's more than adding depth. I mean, again, it's rare that a team is going to have a chance to go after a top tier player like Archie, right? To be able to get a player like that is rare, So to be in position where he wanted to come to Dynasty, and this is the team that he wanted to come and ride off into the sunset, for his career is pretty special. It says a lot about the team, about the guys on the team, about his relationships with us. And so it's exciting, man. I'm pumped. I can't wait to get to practice. Right. It's still early. We're in December. We've got a lot of new exciting stuff. I think the JT thing also makes it that much more magical. I mean, Dynasty's going back to like you said, those iconic early 2000 era. It's just a lot of really cool stuff around the Dynasty camp right now. And the Archie thing is like the total cherry on top.
Yeah. And I mean, 100%. I mean, you kind of mentioned his utility on the field. One thing I've really been thinking about since I started hearing about the potential of this move is how he's going to interact off the field in the pits. Obviously, you look at a team like Dynasty over the last 20 years, the one thing that has been very clear is the big three kind of run that pit in a sense. And also along with you, Marcelo, I mean, there's some really strong voices in there with a lot of wisdom, a lot of paintball IQ. Obviously, I think one thing that's going to help kind of integrate Archie a little bit, obviously he played with the team in 2007 when Oliver departed, and he kind of got that experience of working with Ryan, working with Yosh, and kind of how the pit works. I mean,
I think it was a little later. I think it was like 2010, 11-ish. Yeah,
no, because he came in as the Oliver replacement.
No,
because he had
They won Huntington Beach in 08. X Factor did. I know Archie was on the team then. I think it was 2010.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
Tyler,
maybe it was that first year they started. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, so not 11, because you're right, because that's when Oliver came back. Oliver came back in 11 and Archie was not there. So maybe it was 09 and 10.
Yeah.
I believe that is right. Somewhere right in there.
Yeah.
Can't
Because I know X Factor won Huntington in 08 and Archie was on the team then.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Like, how do you think the interaction is going to be bringing a guy like Archie? Because obviously, too, when you talk about these guys at this kind of greatness level, like this Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant type level within a sport, obviously that brings a really strong personality that just demands greatness from those around them. How do you think that's going to kind of work in with your pit and kind of off the field stuff with the team?
That's going to be great, dude. Archie and I see the game very similarly. And that was clear when we played in Europe. It was cool because often it's Ryan and I kind of disagreeing on certain topics and just having different points of view of how certain things should be played. So it was refreshing to have, Archie reiterate some things that I've kind of echoed. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to respect. Everyone respects each other, right? Ryan brings like 20 years of excellence, Alex, Yosh, same thing. And Archie's done it really well also for a long time. It's just respecting each other and trying to understand that the goal is to win. So there was no issue again in 2019. Like I said, we've already had a test run with this. So I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind on our team that it's going to be pretty seamless, right? It's about getting to the best answer and figuring out the best way to win. Because of course that's a powerful dynamic change. It could be, right? But again, we already tested this. We already went through and did this, it was again, myself, Blake, Ryan, that does exclude a lot of Dynasty, but still there's three prominent figures that of the team that got to play with Archie. And it was like Tyler said about Chad, a treat. I mean, it was an absolute treat, Archie is, anytime he's on the field, you can still, you can still win the point no matter what the situation. So it relieves a lot of pressure from everyone. Everyone on the team is going to benefit from having Archie out there. Just relieves a little bit of pressure. So I think it's gonna be pretty seamless. I think it's gonna be fun. That was like one of the best years, 2019. I mean, it just nonstop laughing, dude. It was a good time. Everyone gets along. Everyone got along. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be a great fit, and should be pretty successful on the field too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tyler, what kind of advice, I guess, in a sense, or kind of sage wisdom do you have for a guy like Archie? I mean, obviously you went through a very similar thing after the first event this season. I mean, what's it like kind of coming into a team that's, very successful already, has a really strong roster? What's that like coming into that?
Well, it's exciting, obviously, first off. And the number one thing is just always going above and beyond to look outside yourself and be a great teammate. Like I told Coach Todd at the beginning of the year, I don't want to play a single point. I don't care if I play a point. I want to win with the team. Whatever the team has to do is what we're going to do to make sure that we get the production that we need out of this organization. So I'm here wholeheartedly for the team, and you got to put that first. And then, creating genuine quality relationships and being a genuine quality person in the community that you're stepping into is very important. Really going above and beyond and caring and pushing the boundaries to make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can to get W's. That's what it's all about.
For sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess now that we're off on our tangent with all that, I mean, Marcelo, Tyler, we talked too about kind of diving. I know we talked about the snake player a little bit.
Yeah.
But we had some other stuff I was kind of thinking would be cool to dive into.
Absolutely.
And one thing for sure that again, this one has been a really heated kind of back and forth between all the people and what's the iconic brain trust essentially, and it's defensive player of the year. And that's because just like this season was really preferable to having an aggressive snake attack, it also really benefited if you had a team, a guy on a team like yourself or Marcelo, or a guy that you can just stick somewhere and feel really good about that guy's going to survive and be able to kind of stop the bleeding, as we saw a lot of this through the snake attacks. I mean, you guys in particular, I mean, who do you kind of look at as the defensive stalwarts of this league?
Absolutely. Well, I actually have your email here, and I think Cody Mikowski is a great example of someone who is, and Marcelo, of course, you too, my bro, like always top notch, guarding the buzzer, making sure that you got everybody with information and making sure that, well, not at this last tournament, you played the one, but predominantly you're the bunker down and you make things happen for the team when shit hits the fan. But Cody, he really stood out to me. I've loved watching him play the last season or two. He's just really stepped up and shown that, he can play that defensive. And also sometimes a good defense is a great offense, and he turns on those jets and turns that defensive play into an offensive move that wins games. Because like Marcelo said, you kind of have to throw caution to the wind and bob and weave. Shout out to Bobby Weaverton one time. You got to get out there and make things happen, and
that Bobby Weaverton fellow got a future.
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. And Cody really stood out as one of those players for me.
Yeah, I kind of talking Cody too. I certainly agree with him. He was a guy that earlier in the season, certainly I think he was on the radar for me, just because how well he did in Ultimate Shootout. I mean, he was, Tyler Harmon level dominant on the 1v1 circuit. We still haven't gotten to see him versus you on that HK 1v1, but
I know.
Be sure he makes that happen soon.
Absolutely.
But one thing I like to point out with him, he had a 1v1 in Chicago for overtime, game on the line. And that's where he really sold me, because I think when I look at guys in terms of greatness, these guys that can go out and they know from the second they cross the net, they're winning. They don't, nothing's stopping them from asserting their will. And, I really saw that in him in Chicago when he won that 1v1 especially, and that really got him on our radar for Defensive Player of the Year. And one thing too, kind of while we're talking about him, Infamous in general, I mean, Callie is another guy.
Yeah.
It's always hard to, look at multiple guys on a team for one award necessarily. But I think it's hard to not look at Callie too. I mean, he is every bit of consistent that you want out of a backline guy. I mean, what do you guys think about him?
Yeah,
I love
Callie. Yeah, 100%. Callie
Yeah.
is incredibly underrated. And the pros, his peers, don't underrate him, but for some reason the public, and that could just be again by that role, right? That role's not very glorifying, and he owns that position. The things he does that don't show up on the stat sheet, like you were talking about for his team, is just massive. And then he does step up, and when the game needs to be won, if it's a low body situation, he can turn on the jets. He can make the right move. He can position himself to be in the right place at the right time, get the right kill, right? He has really big moments for that team over and over. Him and Cody both, I feel like, played lights out this year. Obviously, they were a huge part of Infamous's success, but yeah, either one of those guys, man. You know, Cody too, I think he was so consistent this season. Probably the best season he's had that I've seen. And he's just like consistently gotten better over the last 3 years, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I
it was
think,
weird, man. He had those years on TMG where, you know, he was still a good player on a bad team, essentially, when he was playing with TMG. So I think too, that's kind of why he has that little bit of mellow kind of reputation in the league, because he was kind of under the radar for a while until he got onto Infamous, you know?
Yeah, in a way, but he wasn't putting it together the way he is now. Right?
For sure. Yeah. He's on another level now. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think, you know, with defensive player, it's tough because a lot of these guys are quiet. I mean, obviously, like, if, you know, we're looking at someone like you or Tyler at that kind of award, it's a little easier because you guys are out there when you're not on the field. And, you know, you guys have a lot of these signature moments, as I like to call them. Like you have those moments I can point to throughout the season where I could say, that's why this person is the best at what they do. You know what I mean? But, you know, it's hard too, because, you know, you look at a guy like Henry Sense or something on Revo. I mean, it's certainly easy to look at Baltimore and kind of gravitate towards someone like Chris Shear or Dan Zaleski right away, because, you know, they were very good this year for Revo.
Darula.
Yeah, Darula as well.
Shout out to Darula, dude.
Yeah.
He
huge
is
for them.
Huge for them.
Yeah, and I mean, Darula's a really underrated guy. Not a lot of guys talk about him. And I think when we were even released our insert players of the year, we got a lot of heat for not having Darula on that list, you know, because he's kind of one of those guys that flies around everywhere. But, you know, just talking from
his music, Jason Derulo, is just next level. Have you heard it?
Hit us with a line.
I'm not going to do that to the people.
Dude, you got to. Marcelo sung last time
Jason
on the show.
Derulo.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Man's a goat on the field. He's a goat at singing. He's got it all.
Let's go. And I'm not even going to lie with y'all. I have COVID right now, so pray for me. I'm able to do these shows, but I'm doing this show with 100-degree fever right now. So send some love my way.
Damn, Ty, we're
yeah,
thinking
man,
about
that
you, brother.
sucks, man.
Yeah, it's not fun. Like, I had a headache most of the day. It's kind of calmed down, and I'm definitely going to hit the bed after this.
100%, man. But yeah, pull through it, man. Don't be getting anything too serious from it. So
no, I feel okay. Just the headache and like little fatigue and stuff, and I have a little fever, but I'll be fine.
You staying hydrated with all the good stuff?
Absolutely. I got my water right here. I have some secret Transfuse that I've stashed away for this special moment.
Nice. Dude, they should be ready to rock and roll here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Shout out to Transfuse though. I do love their stuff. I'm a big doubter of things when I hear them when I hear sponsors on a show, right away I doubt it. I don't know why. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
But I got some of it at an event from someone. I'm like, you know, this stuff is real good,
dude,
you know.
It's is no BS, like straight up. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. But yeah, so let's get back talking when we're talking Revo, Henry Sense is kind of a defensive player of the year.
Yep.
How do you guys feel about him? Because, you know, again, a very under the radar guy that I think the way he plays a defensive role, I mean, he's a critical guy for Revo. He's huge off the break for them. He's, you know, in the top of the league when it comes to kind of controlling zones and being, you know, dedicated to those zones. I mean, how do you feel as kind of from your standpoint as a pro?
Absolutely. Henry has really impressed me this year, and he's playing some inspired paintball. You can see that he is just playing inspired for his teammates and to be the best player he can be, giving information and connecting things for everybody. He's really given everything he's got to the game, and it shows in his playing ability out there that we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. In Chicago, I thought Henry played really well again. So we talk about, you know, you can look at like a full body of work. I look at moments. I think that's the most important thing that an athlete can excel in, right? I would.
Yeah, man, it's the Jordan fadeaway. You got to have those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, you're right, but I don't mean it in a flashy sense of having a moment that is like a highlight reel. I don't mean that kind of moment. I mean like the magnitude of a situation, the timing in which you pull something off for your team, you know, how it affects the change of pace, how it affects the momentum, all of the intangibles that only the high level individuals understand. To me, that is what makes the great players, right? And that's what impresses me, not, you know, running down the field, shooting 3 or 4 bodies, you know, every point except for one of the most important ones, right? That kind of stuff, just they're empty stats to me. Henry, I felt, had a lot of really big moments in Chicago, right? On that Sunday run, you know, taking down Heat, taking
that
down
shocking win over Impact, you know, at the last moment. And he was really big for them.
Yeah.
And I really like what you said about showing up and kind of making the good decisions when they matter. I think when you look at Defensive Player of the Year, I mean, that carries a ton of weight, the way you said that. Because I think there's a stark difference between the guy that can roll out to, you know, a tower and shoot 11 pods at his own versus a guy that can do that like yourself or Tyler. And then they know when it's time to start pushing the tempo. They know when it's time to get their guys' guns switched and, you know, what zones to drop to pick up a different one. And I think that's really crucial, you know, kind of having, you know, those kind of moments and that kind of signature times, like what you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just got to throw this out there. I mean, obviously Marcelo has to be in that conversation as well for what he's been doing in paintball.
Well, hey man, I told Marshy, unfortunately we can't consider him for either award really. He didn't play enough defense because he didn't play at that one event, and he didn't play enough offense either. So unfortunately, we can't consider him for anything this year.
Fantastic, dude. Just
better luck next year, pal.
You won it all anyway.
Hey, I was gonna say I got a couple rings, trophies, and a barrel over here that are making that feel a little better.
Dude, Tyler made it really tough too, because like it's so much versatility out of that guy. Obviously, Tyler, it was a no-brainer to have you as one of our nominees for Icon of the Year. But when I really started to step back and dig deeper, I mean, I started really thinking, I was like, I really have to consider this guy in our Defensive Player of the Year conversation. And that's not to say that that's all you do, but I mean, if I want to look at one event as my proof of work, I look to Chicago every single time for you. Because that was a field I felt you guys played really well in prelims. Todd tried a bunch of stuff. But let's look at what did he actually rely on when it came to the big moments. He was putting you at the home and relying on you to make sure the zones were held, making sure the guns were where they need to be, and to close out games for that team. And you were huge for that for them. And that was where, you know, I really started to look at your body of work as a whole. And I thought, you know, obviously this guy's good at everything, but from a defensive posture, this guy is arguably one of the best in the leagues at that. You know, World Cup, we saw you win multiple 2v1s, multiple 1v1s, and, you know, really anchor your team and keep them alive. I mean, you can argue, you know, you guys may have exited a lot sooner without some of those kind of clutch plays you were able to bring from a defensive posture out of the back line.
Well, let me just say thank you, first of all, because that's super kind of you to say that stuff about me, man. And I really have had to shift my style of play to be malleable, like we talk about on the show a lot, and, you know, do what I have to do to be the best teammate I can be. You know, I, for the most part of my career, have played a one role, and, you know, I still do my attacking on the field, but I'm definitely playing a little bit different style these days to help support Chad George, help support my middle players, and really bring that connectivity to the field that we need so that we have awareness and we can make these decisions at the right time and get those wins out there.
How's that decision making kind of work for you guys? You know, I think it's a good thing to talk about while we're talking about defensive play. How's that kind of decision making lay out for you during a game when you start to see things kind of break down, you see some cracks forming in your guard? Like, where do you find the kind of logic in terms of how you're going to answer back, stop the bleeding, and kind of, you know, take back control of the game?
Of course. Yeah. So say we lose, you know, a wide player. It's all about getting that information immediately to your player and telling them what they need to do because of that hole, filling that hole, and then not being afraid just because you're down to still attack, still go get production. The only way we're going to get back in this is if I get 2 players. You know, we're probably not going to win this if I sit back and battle it out on the wire with this snake guy who's at the 50 now. My best chance of winning is to go on the offense. So really not holding back, even though we go down a body, still getting up there and doing it with your team, not doing it alone, letting your teammate know, hey, I'm going in here. Yo, let's start working together on this side. Just those little bits of information of connectivity to try to leverage the game back into your favor, even though things have not gone your way early in that point. But it's super imperative that we have a lot of good information. So that's really something that I'm going to continue to work on being even better at. And, all aspects of the game, we still have so far to go to mastery on this game. Obviously, it's such a difficult game and nobody will ever truly master it, but we can really push towards that as the objective and try to be the best we can out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said, Ty. To me, it comes down to just knowing the field. And I think it's a little different on each field, right? Understanding where advantages are, where disadvantages are. If I lose my snake player on one field, it might be detrimental and I have to do whatever I can to get out to the corner. Otherwise we're going to lose the point. On another field, I might not have to do anything too crazy, right? I might be able to stay like World Cup last year, was a great example. In the overtime point, we didn't even send somebody out to the snake side. The widest person we had was me in the back center, essentially, like it was like a foot off to the snake side.
We went four Dorito way.
Speaking of which, yeah, we did. Whose decision was that? Because in the moment, Coach. Excuse my language, that was fucking crazy in the moment. That was a huge risk that could have been something we look back on after the event thinking what the hell were they thinking? They threw the event away on that. You know what I mean?
It wasn't though, because that wasn't the first time we had done it, right? So we had already used it throughout the event a couple times, and we felt really good with that.
Well, but it's the moment that's different too. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a little different using that in a prelim game versus the biggest stage in the world.
We used it on Sunday. We used it on Sunday in other big moments. That same event earlier that day, we had used it, right? And it was a high risk play, but no, we felt really good about it because when we ran the play, it worked so well. So it again, on paper, it sounds like a crazy idea, but it's really not. It really was not a crazy idea at all.
And that's like what you're talking about with the field, knowing the field.
Yes, exactly. That's from knowing the field. On that field, I had realized, me personally, I can keep them from coming to our side. If they get into the snake, can they shoot a bunch of our guys? And on that field, no, they couldn't. They had to come to your side. Right. So I knew that I wasn't going to lose a gunfight to that snake player, and I wasn't going to allow them to put me in and come to our side. So if we can have
not to interrupt either, speaking on stats, that game, 64% of games, you shot Billy off the break off that side of the field and got him out of there.
Tyler was shooting that zone as well. We had multiple guns there. I will say that, but we did have a lot of success shooting Billy for sure. That was part of the game plan. Right. And that was part of the game plan, especially when, we weren't, just being totally honest, we weren't as confident in our snake side as we were the rest of our guys. Right. And I think I talked to you about this before the show a little bit about, the Archie thing. How do you fit him in? You have some players in that position. It doesn't always matter, right? It's a positionless game. Just have people on the field that know how to win in those moments, that have been there, have the experience, have the poise, and know how to play the game, right? Know how to go out there and get it done. And so us pulling our snake guy in that play gave us the ability to have Dalton, Tyler, and Blake on the field on that side, right? Those are three of the best players in the league, so I'm going to take that all day if it's not a snake that they can come down and shoot everybody, right? And so that field called for that. So I understand a lot of people saw that play in the finals oh my God, that's crazy, but it really wasn't that crazy. It was practiced. It had good rhythm. The team was confident in it. The second coach even brought it up, everyone was like, yep, that's the one. We're doing that one. There was no one was like, oh shit, we're not going to send anyone out on the snake side this one.
See, man, I was the opposite because 5 seconds hits and I see how the guns are on the box and I'm like, oh my God, they're just going to let Billy take the snake and dominate. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's not how it went down.
Yeah. But no, that's huge. And I mean, I think I really like obviously we already released our coach of the year stuff, but I like it because I think stuff like that are the signature moments you can look at when you look at who's the best coach in the league.
Yes.
Who is the guy that's willing to just say, I trust my guys to execute. I don't even care what the other team's going to do. I trust they're going to do this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's big. But I think that's a good take,
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. I mean, and shout out to Rusty for, again, there was just such cohesion. Honestly, the team has done a good job of having that, and Skinny has come in and taking over the reins and some, right? But a team and a coach have to have that cohesion of the coach needs to understand that, you know, the players need to be comfortable with what you're telling them to do as well, right? And the players need to understand that you got to buy into what the coach is telling you. So there's a mutual respect that has to happen if you want success in your organization, no matter what. And if you have friction between the two, it creates that doubt. And once you have a little bit of that doubt, you're not winning anything on Sunday, right? Yeah. Those couple of seconds, that delay in you know, decision making because you're second guessing it or you don't fully believe in it. That's it. That's the wrap, right?
And speaking of coaches too, I mean, I'd love to kind of talk to you guys a bit about our coach of the year, because, you know, some of the votes from our board are starting to roll in. We're starting to kind of dial in and get a clearer picture of that. I'd love to hear what you guys think, because kind of everyone that's involved with kind of our brain trust, everyone kind of has their little bit of a different view of how they take on a certain category, like what their certain criteria is personally. To me, when I look at coach of the year, I don't like to just immediately go to wins and be like, that's the guy that wins it. You know, obviously winning an event is really important. But, you know, say you look at a guy like Ryan Brand, for instance. I mean, you could make an argument if 2 or 3 points go differently, he's the guy sitting with 2 event wins and a season title. And, you know, and Kevin is sitting without either of those. So I don't necessarily like to gravitate to those right away. I mean, how can you guys both, you know, both having a coach in this race, what do you guys kind of think is important for a coach of the year?
Well, I think the biggest thing you said is moments, right? And really the whole story. So for me, the argument to make for Skinny Kevin is really easy, right? He comes in after, you know, we do win World Cup, but we go into the first event. We don't have Dalton. It's like 2 weeks before the event. We lose Rusty, which is a huge part of Dynasty, right? The team is kind of a little shook up. You know, things are not what they were just a couple weeks before that event. We go in, we don't have a great performance, and then we lose Tyler, which is, I mean, everyone saw what was online. Everybody thought that was the end of Dynasty, and understandably so. I mean, on the outside in, you see what Tyler brings to any team. How do you lose a player like that and still compete, you know, at the highest level? And Skinny Kevin brought the team together. 100% brought the team together. You go into Philly, you see not just losing Tyler, then we go through the injury list. You know, we lose Dalton. That's another big blow. I mean, to me, when Dalton is healthy, I've said this on the show, when Dalton is healthy, I don't think there's a better Dorito player than him. He's just such a high level attacker over on that side of the field and so consistent. Not always incredibly flashy, but he just gets it done over and over and over. He is like matured into this player that really just understands the entirety of the game. So like even just having him there is huge. We lose Dalton, right? Arturo has a broken hand, just had surgery a week before the event. Alex ends up filling in the role and going and playing the one on the Dorito side, starts doing pretty well, but then injures himself. And we still kind of like skate to a third place finish, right? That to me, from a coaching perspective, says a lot. I think it says a ton about the team. And then you go into the next.
Yeah, but you know, just as equally though, we could look at that event. Obviously, you guys had a really gritty performance, but on the other side of the take, you know, we had Heat, you know, dominant. I mean, no one had an answer for them the entire event. And just, you know, watching the coaching process there with Todd, I mean, this is like a master strategist. I mean, just watching pre-calls from him on the box before a point starts. I mean, this guy is like ardently researching every team. He's watching all the points and he's kind of formulating strategies to go. I mean, I think it's also important to kind of look at Todd in that way as well. Because, I mean, again, injuries are not, like you said earlier, no one cares at the end of the day if you're hurt, you know, if a guy's out or anything. Results are important as well. I mean, Tyler, how critical do you think Todd is in the process of your team?
Extremely. That's cash money millionaire right there. That's the big T money. He is such a inspirational dude. Like, honestly, being coached by Todd now in my career is insane, because growing up, that was one of my favorite paintball players of all time. Just the big life that he lives, you know, it's just such a honor, honestly, to be able to pick his brain and learn from Todd. He works his ass off to get the details dialed in for us, and he gives us all the tools that we need to get the job done. and it's up to us to execute out there as a team with cohesion and unity on the field when it matters the most. But he gives us every tool we need, man. And we spend a lot of time, working off the field. We practice, I mean, arguably more than anybody, I think. And we really care about this process. And he drives that whole entire train for us to be the best we can be. So major shout out to Todd and his nomination with the Iconic Award there.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry to interrupt you there, Marcelo, but go on into the next event, the Chicago with Skinny.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, again, you look at the whole story, right? Then the team goes and wins Chicago, wins World Cup, kind of a storybook finish. You got to look at a coach that comes in and is handed a not so ideal situation and is able to keep the confidence and turn things around, and get the team to believe in each other again and get the team to feel that, quote unquote dynasty magic again. Skinny Kevin had a huge part in it. He really does. He I've said it on the show a few times. He does a great job of creating good relationships with his players. I mean, I've been really lucky to play under the best coaches the game has ever seen. I've played under Shane Pastana. I've played under Mike Hinman. I've played under Todd Martinez as well.
Let's talk about Mike.
Well, hold on a second.
Little bit.
Yeah, 1 second. I've played under Rusty Glaze, and now Skinny Kevin, and it's hard for me to remember a coach that I thought did a better job than Skinny Kevin. To be completely honest,
Really?
It's a big statement.
That is.
Yeah, what he and it. I always had a lot of respect for him from a distance. I really did. Did not think that I was going to speak this highly of him, and I knew I'd speak highly of him. Again, he was high on my list when we were looking for a coach, but he has surprised me in ways that it's just tremendous. Again, like his ability to build relationships with the players on an individual, basis and make you really want to play for him. It's really special. That's a hard thing to do as a coach. You have to understand different personalities, especially with a team like Dynasty. So, I if that answers your question, I think what he has done is just tremendous.
Can we also talk too about how secretly funny Kevin really is?
Oh, he's
I feel like he's so serious at events, and then every time I talk to him, like on a one-on-one level, he's so funny.
He's hilarious. Yeah, he is absolutely. They're like one-liners too. He's just really dry humor.
Oh man, I texted you with what he was saying to me the other night, man. He's funny, man.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Hinman.
Yes.
I think Hinman's cool to talk about as well. Because again, you look at Todd and Skinny, they have really, really good rosters to work with. Hinman came in with, I'm just going to say it was the worst roster in 2019. I mean, the only team that did worse, I think on paper, was the Wild Dogs. They played one event. Aftermath played the whole season. So when you look at Aftermath and what he's been able to do, I mean, a lot of coaches on this list, you have great strategists like Ryan Brand or Todd. I mean, you have guys who are just great people guys that can really inspire players to do better. And Kevin, and guys like Travis as well with Infamous. But when you look at Mike, I mean, this is just a guy that's a developer, man. He gets guys that might not necessarily be a top tier player. And I feel he really finds that other gear with them. Obviously, throughout his history, there's been guys that hasn't worked well with, but it's hard to deny a guy like Mike when you look at his coaching tree and who he's produced. I mean, Marcelo, you're a guy that I feel in a way that he's produced. I mean, Mouse was coming out of that camp. A-Rod's coming out of that camp. Tyler, you played with them in your early days. I mean, if you really look back, a lot of the top guys in the league right now at young times in their careers were coached by Mike, and we're kind of seeing that come full circle again with his reintroduction with Aftermath this year. I think when he came into the season, you can kind of look at his roster. He pulled a lot of guys that were not like top tier guys on good teams. And I think he really was willing to be fluid with how he coached and find a way for them to be successful. I mean, Tyler, Marcelo, whichever one of you kind of want to answer this, how does Mike kind of rank in a coach of the year conversation? Because obviously, they weren't a team winning events, but at the same time, it's hard to deny how quickly he took a bad team and developed that roster.
Yeah, Mike's amazing. And Jerry as well, who's helped out tremendously in the pits
Jerry's
there.
huge.
Yeah. Well, Jerry is their coach, so it's a hard one for me, Quinn. I know I did mention that to you. I don't think you can nominate Mike without having Jerry included. He's the one in the pit calling all their plays from a strategy standpoint. We practice against them a lot. Mike stands on the sideline and will help players play their position better, right? Which is
Mhm.
crucial. To me, Mike is the best developer that the game has ever seen. As far as like developing players and identities and a culture for the team, absolutely dynamite. And like that's why he's on that list, right? But from a pure coaching perspective, that's been Jerry with Aftermath this year, and him and Mike have been a great team in that regard, where Mike is less hands-on with the play calling, the X's and O's, and more from a developmental side of, hey, like I understand paintball, you're in this position looking inside. That's not the way this field plays, right? Let's work through that. And so, it's tough for me to.
But I don't think that disqualifies him as a coach, because I think you could almost look at this if we want to look at more traditional sports. Jerry to me is more of like a coordinator in a sense, where he's a guy that is really diving into the very minute specifics of a match, the game flow of it, the plays to be called. And Hinman's a little bit more of, almost like a Pete Carroll type of guy. If you look at, football as a comparison, he's a guy that he's a motivator. He's a developer. He's not going to be calling every single play, but, he's going to have his hands in there. He's going to be getting dirty.
I like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's a great explanation of that for sure. And in that regard, it shifts my thinking back to that side. Totally. But I think you put the pair together, because Jerry's done a great job too, right? To be he's got a big part in that. He really does. He came from the X Factor organization. He's worked his butt off, learned a ton over there. But I like that explanation. I haven't quite heard of that, because our sport hasn't really had that structure. There's been a couple teams that might have, more than one coach, but it's rare, right? I think right now X Factor has Dixon helping, and he's more of like does scouting and helps, with certain things. And you are seeing some of the teams start to have that, which is cool, from a coaching perspective. That's awesome to be able to build out that team.
I think it's valuable what they do. And I think, again, like you said, it really shows the high value of a guy like Jerry in the sport of paintball. Just because, there's coaches out there, you got to look at what's valuable with their time in match. It might not necessarily be, say Heat goes out, say they drop 2 points early. Is it more valuable to have Todd looking at some, incredibly minute detail from that game and trying to spend his minute or two he has talking to an individual player like that? Or is it better to have Todd bring out that incredible level of the kind of motivation he has and kind of way to hype guys up and get them, kind of get the momentum swung back? And that's why I think kind of what you said, Marcel, I think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward in paintball, where we kind of see a segregation of duties among these coaching staffs to kind of really help coaches kind of shine in their best role, rather than having them be this all-encompassing, do everything kind of job.
Yeah, I agree. I know that the coaching is just going to get better and better. As we move forward, we're going to develop different ways that we can make that aspect of the game heightened as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Tyler, one question I did want to ask, because we were talking about coaching, how does Todd kind of rank to you through that kind of really legendary coaching bubble that you come from? Because obviously you started with Bob, and then you kind of worked under Rich for a while as well when you were kind of growing up banging around in Modesto, and and then you've been under Rusty as well, and you've seen a lot of other good coaches in your time. Kind of, how's Todd kind of differ, or where's he kind of rank to you in that kind of order?
Todd is top level. The guy is just a really hardworking guy, man. He just gives his heart and soul to the game, and it's infectious. When you have someone like that around you and you see that passion pouring out, it makes you want to go even harder in the paint, and get the job done for him. So it's really amazing to be able to have that lineage as well and be able to have those insights from Todd. Because like I said, growing up, that guy was one of my all-time favorite paintball players, and he's done so much in the game of paintball. He's won everything you can win in paintball, and he's also done that, off the field, and is just a tremendous person.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Todd's dynamite, dude. He really is. He is. You can just tell again. So I think it's so important for a coach to create relationships with their players, and some coaches don't do that. That's not their style, right? But for me personally, I think it's a really important thing. You see, like, Todd definitely pours his heart and soul into whatever team he's coaching, and if you watch, or if you have watched paintball for the last 10 years, you've seen the teams that he's taken to the top. He's done that, and, you could argue now he has one of the most talented rosters in the league, but he's done it without that as well. He did a great job with Vicious, getting them to a finals, a young team. He did it with the Ironmen. It was a long time coming, but they finally got the win. So Todd, I mean, man, he's definitely one of the all-time greats.
And the way he switches gears too, I think is wild, man. Like you see him at events and he can go from telling you like the funniest joke you've ever heard to just like stone face, like locked in. And it's wild, man. I mean, it's Tyler, it honestly kind of reminds me of you where like at an event, like suddenly it's just like a switch kicks on and you're just like, ready to kill.
I'm gone. I mean? Yeah, I'm gone.
His eyes get wide and you're flying. Get
Tiger's
that water
blood.
in you.
Yeah. Tiger's blood.
But yeah, man. One thing I did want to bring up too, and we got to talk a bit to you guys about this. I know we've kind of hinted a bit that we're going to do a community style vote for one of our awards. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up because when I was considering doing this, I had a lot of kind of reservations, generally in the sense I didn't want to see an award kind of get brigaded or biased in a certain way, because I think it's very easy when you kind of go to the general public to kind of, loud minorities to kind of really push things the way they want. And, we like the awards to stay, really non-biased. We don't want anyone kind of pushing or pulling for certain people. Because again, at the end of the day, it's truly about trying to honor the best that we have out there. So that's why I was really excited when I kind of started thinking about the prospect of potentially doing this within your guys' community. Because I think in my small amount of time kind of interacting, recently I've kind of been having, through your guys' kindness, the ability to kind of jump into the group and kind of observe and see how it operates. And it's incredible, man. You guys have really been able to build up this insane community. Like I heard about it on your guys' show for, it's been, I feel like 50 episodes now. I've heard you guys talking about it. And, kind of in the back of your head, you're saying like, yeah, whatever. But now that I'm in it, it's incredible, man. Like it really, the experience I kind of liken it to is it's like that feeling when you get to the field on Sunday morning before like the game starts.
Yeah.
And like, you're all kind of just like messing around with your friends, telling jokes. Like you're friendly with the guys on the other teams there still because you haven't got on the field yet. And the community really, it's awesome because it kind of gives you that, like that camaraderie, like 7 days a week. There's kind of the weird humor that comes with paintball players. At times it dives into really serious kind of paintball talk. And I really think it's a great community in that sense. And I've been kind of blown away, by these guys and how positive everybody is. So again, that's why I was really excited once I got to kind of check the community out of kind of bringing in a community element to this vote. So that's why I think we're going to, at Iconic, entrust the vote for product of the year to you guys' community.
Whoa, amazing.
And I'm really excited to kind of see how it goes, man, because, I think we have some great products in the Editor's Choice of the Year categories. Whether you're talking about Alex and Oliver with the Hormesis headbands, we have Travis and Craig and the rest of the team at Infamous. They've been putting out great product after product with just great stuff. And in particular, their Silencio barrel line is great. It's been really popular with a lot of the pro players as well.
And the coffee. Don't forget about that coffee.
Dude, the coffee's huge. I got a chance to try it out and it's super good, man. Like a lot of times you see products like that and you just kind of think like, maybe this is just kind of like a cash grab thing, but dude, it's really good coffee. You know what I mean? That could be something that breaks paintball into a kind of, a wider audience, because that could just be something in itself that's successful in just a non-paintball way. You know what I mean? And then we kind of looked at some other stuff too. One, a product that we at Iconic here really, really love is the HKSLR. Tyler and Marcelo, you have a ton of experience with that product as well. A lot of people don't realize that's been essentially one of the best selling products of the year, just period, across the board at retailers all over the country. So that's why it made it really easy for us to look at that as a product of the year, just because the best test is what people are buying, and a lot of people are buying the HKSLR mask. One product too, not to dive too deep into all of them, we kind of wanted to not just look at big companies as well, because there's a lot of good small companies emerging now, which is really good to see in paintball. We've had a lot of years where it's been, very few companies, and we're finally starting to transition back into that really fun, like kind of early golden age of paintball stuff, where there's all these weird little quirky products like Tank Dangle or the 3D stuff that Paintball DNA is doing, or even like the trading cards now are super cool as well. So that's why when we looked at Paintball DNA, they have a really cool product called the Pocket Stand, which is literally just like, I mean, it folds up and literally can just fit in your pocket, and you can pop it out, unfold this thing, and you have a stand to set your mark on. So you're not, spending $1,500 on a brand new force and then just throwing the thing on the ground. You're keeping that baby looking nice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or in my case, I'm keeping my TM40 looking nice. You know what I mean?
Go.
And then lastly, we looked at the Bunker Kings Fly Series stuff, just because it's been really popular in their team programs. We've heard a lot of good stuff from the pros. And me personally, I've been using this stuff all year as well. It's just a super lightweight, low profile product. But again, not to dive too deep into all of it.
What an honor, man. Are you kidding me? This is amazing. Thank you so much, dude. And PTG World is what we call the Discord chat. It is an amazing world. Someday we plan on having a city with paintball field, and it's going to be this whole big thing in the future. It'll be like Disneyland of paintball or games or whatever,
Dude, I'm about it. Give me a season pass right now.
There we go.
you're grandfathered in, dude. We got you.
Dude, you're in there.
But man, I can't say enough good things about the community. And again, every time I'm like what I like to call like a devil's advocate, in the sense is I always look at like but what's the other side of this thing? So I'm always like super like cautious and critical when I kind of hear about things on shows or whatever. Like I said, man, this community is like sick, and I'll never be able to say enough good stuff about it. And I will say to anyone listening right now, I highly recommend, kind of looking into it. And that's not to shill you guys or kind of push it weird. I just generally think it captures that perfect essence of camaraderie that's in paintball. And I just think it gives you it 7 days a week where you can kind of have a lot of fun with it. Not to count too, you get to talk to you guys, which you guys are two of my favorite people in all of paintball, whether it's
we love you,
guys
Quinn.
I've been playing with 10 years or, whatever. You guys are you've been infectious personalities, and just, seeing everything. And I mean, guys posting about their pets and stuff today, and Tyler giving all his reactions. It's just, it's fun to follow along with and kind of be a part of. So I'm super happy we can trust such a great group of guys to do this community vote for us.
Wow. What an honor.
Dude. That is a tremendous honor, man. And you said some really nice things about us right there, dude. I can't thank you enough. And I love the way you explained it, like showing up to the field Sunday morning and, before the games get going, you just kind of see everybody. It's a good feeling. It's all your paintball friends. That is what it's like, and that is a great way to explain it. It's that camaraderie. That's like one of the most special things about paintball in general. It's why a big reason why so many of us became addicted at a young age, like showing up on the weekend with your friends there, doing this like weird, obscure thing. I don't know. It created this special bond. It's always been that way. It's like if you see a paintball player in the airport, it's like you're immediately like, oh, what's up, dude? How's it going? You're going to the paintball tournament? Awesome,
dude. And it's what I love about it. I mean, Alex says it all the time with him and Johnny. Like in just a real life normal scenario, these are two guys that would never interact. They're not the kind of dudes that be in the same social group. I mean, Johnny is this like incredibly good looking, like, 6'1" jock, and Alex is this kind of really artistic, kind of quiet guy, keeps to himself a little bit. But then you have an amazing sport like paintball that just brings these guys together and just gives you a bond. I mean, paintball's so great at bringing like kind of not misfits, but just guys that are like me. Like I'm a weirdo outside of paintball. Like I'm a strange dude. But I come to paintball and I feel like I just fit right in. Like, everyone's always so accepting in the community. And again, you guys really capture that essence, I feel.
Dude, it's all love. It's all love for paintball. And the greatest thing about PTG World is we're encouraging people to be great in whatever they do. We have a lot of really great conversations in there. Marcelo and myself are able to one-on-one chat with our community, and it has been such an amazing experience. And we do like monthly health challenges and try to encourage people to, take their health seriously and give any advice that we can on the paintball game to help our community, be the best they can to play the game.
100%, man. I love it. I'm super excited about doing the community vote with you guys. But
dude, lit. Let's go.
Yeah, that's super cool. So if you're in the Discord, you're going to get to vote on the product. Is that going to be the one? Is that the one? We're
Yeah,
gonna do?
yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
man. It's gonna be
awesome.
the product of the year. And I mean, I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I feel like I say this about every category. I feel like all of them are so close because I want to put this out too, because I feel like sometimes when we put new nominees, it's not disheartening in a sense, but sometimes I get messages for right away. Well, guys will pick one person out to be like, LOL, this list sucks. And then that's it. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, I just wish people could sit and listen in, which everyone will have a chance soon with me and Maddie on Go Sports. We're just going to have our conversations that me and Maddie have on this stuff. And it's just going to be unbarred, nothing held back. We call people out, we tell it how it is. Because really, to be truly honest, man, so much time goes into this list. I mean, this has been something I've been actively working on essentially the entire year. Yeah. And, me and Maddie have conversations. We'll stretch, 3 hours at a time sometimes, and we might get through 3 people in that time.
No way. You and Maddie?
Oh my God.
You and Maddie talk for 3 hours at a time?
We just had a conversation. We just had a conversation 2 nights ago. I got a chance to catch him for a minute. He's been really busy with 4 Sundays. His wife had COVID, so that kind of held him up for a little bit. But it's funny because the first thing he said, he's like, I didn't want to pick up because I know every time I pick the phone up, we have a 3-hour conversation. And he's like, not that I don't love that, but sometimes I can't do that. But dude, you'd be blown away. I mean, just to kind of touch in a little bit, not privy information, but what we kind of talk about. I mean, we talked about the D-side argument for a while the other day. It's a super hard category right now because there is a lot of big names.
Free the D-side. Hashtag
free the Doritos.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys that played the Doritos side this year that way overperformed expectations. When you look at a guy like Chris Shear, for instance. Yeah. And then you kind of have these guys that are huge names that, me and Maddie had a really long conversation about this. And I particularly dove deep into, like you talk about Justin Cornell, Brandon Cornell. Yeah. It's really hard this year when you look at guys like that because they split so much time. There was events where they were just crushing it. They looked like the best Dorito players in the league. And then other events, they didn't look so hot. And, those conversations can get really in depth because obviously from a talent standpoint, you look at someone like Brandon Cornell, just a world of talent on the Dorito side. Arguably, this is a guy that can give you, a 30 out of 10 sometimes and just crush it. But, of course, a guy like that, sometimes he can have, big penalties at inopportune moments. When you look at Tyler, when he played you guys, you guys got ahead a little bit. They started to make a big comeback, really behind Brandon's gun on that side. And then, suddenly he draws 2 penalties in a row. And, Tyler, you're standing on the podium raising the trophy instead of them. And I think it's a hard argument because, I know, Marcelo, you're probably fairly passionate about this because I know you're a big fan of the, it's okay to not play every point if you crush it, the points you do play. But, it's really hard with them because I think when you look at Brandon and Justin especially, and you're talking about Dorito Player of the Year, it's hard to pick out signature moments for these guys throughout the season. Because, say, for instance, we look to Florida, which is their first win of the season. What's the story of that event? It's Mouse. And I think you're crazy if you talk about anyone else. Maybe you could talk about J-Rab that event because he did a lot of damage for that kind of as a trailing runner. But really, you look at that event, Justin played really well in the prelims. And then we get to finals. He gets shot off the break. 2 out of the 4 points he plays. One of the 2 points they win is like a 50-second nonsense end of the event kind of rush point. So I think it's really hard to look at the event and kind of say, this guy was elite in the Doritos either way. And then again, I kind of just touched on the same thing in Philly. Tyler, you had direct experience of this because you were there. Justin looked really good in the prelims again. He crushed it. Inexplicably, they decided to start playing Brandon a lot more on Sunday, and they start splitting a bunch of time. And then, ultimately, Brandon gets a few penalties for them, kind of outside of even the really good kind of play that he had, kind of, carrying them back on the comeback against you guys. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of an insight how these thought processes work and why these conversations get so long. We'll just jump quickly to the last 2 events. And then we look at impact in Chicago with these 2 guys talking about Dorito Player of the Year. That Dorito side was tough. I think it's, that was a hard side to play. And I think a few guys did really shine on it. But when you look at these guys, Justin was probably the most critical guy at that event for them. I think if you want to point at any signature moment to kind of talk about Justin in this conversation, he was really good on a Dorito side that was very hard to play and not a lot of people looked good on. And I mean, he really dominated for them. I mean, obviously they came up a little bit short. And part of that was, another guy we're looking at was because of Chris Shear of just utter domination of just willing his team to win on Sunday against them. But again, the kind of moral of the story again comes to, it's hard to find these signature moments with these guys. So I think it's important when we look at these awards to look past the names sometimes, because obviously you have a guy like, if I say Marcelo Margot, Tyler Harmon, Ryan Greenspan, these are guys, they have the name and they bring the performance every event. They have signature moments. But this year was weird, man. We saw a lot of really big names that didn't bring that kind of elite level we're used to seeing out of them, or at least in the moments where they really mattered. But again, I won't dive too deep into it. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of why these conversations we have within kind of the brain trust here get so elongated. Because I mean,
of course, man.
That conversation long, I mean, you could dive into an hour just talking about, do you put the Cornells on the Dorito playlist or do you not? It's a tough conversation.
Oh, especially, we've had Maddie on this show and they go the distance, baby.
Yeah, man.
You're going to have some really good conversations. And it is a difficult chore that you guys are tasked with, but I don't think that there is a better group of people that could do it. It's, the committee is you, Matt Marshall,
Maddie, we got Rich Telford. We're getting a little bit of input from Tom as well. And then I have an array of people. I talked to a bunch of different pro players. I talked to a lot of the coaches generally, because obviously I don't want to use players, coaches and stuff in a voting board because if I have Marcelo on a board, for instance, a guy to me, Marcelo probably gets close to me and Maddie in terms of the amount of sheer games he watches and how he breaks them down, which from a standpoint, mentally, he would be a great person to vote on awards like this. But obviously we can't do that because if I put Marcelo in a category,
conflict of interest there, huh?
I bet he's going to win, I bet everyone gets a 0 but him. So, we certainly have a large array of individuals we talk to as well.
I think some kind of peer voting system is valuable though, too, because the players that are out there really do know, who's
for sure
who they're scouting for, who they're,
see, the hope going forward is that my main goal this year, I just wanted to set a really strong baseline of quality and just something really impartial to show, hey, we can do this in a way that makes sense, and we can highlight and honor these guys that just go out and just grind and put in the effort to win an award like this and give them that recognition. The hope going into the future is we can kind of start to evolve this into more of how they do year-end awards for major sports like NFL, NBA. We want to bring coaches in voting on this. If you have every coach voting, it evenly weighs that vote. If a Hinman wants to pull his weight to, someone like Thomas Kim, great, that's okay, because we have 19 other coaches voting in these categories as well. Because I think, to me, you're going to get the best insight possible from the elite players, the coaches. And the hope is we can move to that sort of role, because obviously the more good paintball minds we bring in on a project like this, the more and more we can really dial in these awards to fit the mold of honoring the best players.
Absolutely. What drives Iconic Paintball to document these paintball stories and do this work that you're doing?
Honestly, a few things, but to me, it's just like my weird nerdiness with paintball. I've just been like a super fan of the game since I was a kid, man. Like I just absorb all the content I can as a kid. I would spend my days rushing home from school to argue on PB Nation when I was 12 years old.
You probably argued with my dad on PB Nation back then.
And you probably didn't know it. It was a burner account. Yeah. But I mean, my passion really comes from, I just love the sport. I'm not driven to do this. I lose money doing this by far. I don't have any drive. I'm never going to have sponsors for this, solely for the reason I don't want some outside influencing storytelling. But truly, I say this, and it was the first article I ever did. The biggest motivation to me by far for this was Marcus in two fronts. One, the idea he always pushed of just always, following your dreams, taking life the direction you want. I mean, that was big for me because when I looked at paintball, I said, my dream for paintball is just to have something where we have a legitimate kind of archive for storytelling. We can kind of recognize and, just show the greats that came through the game. And the second front kind of mark how he ties into this is I looked at a guy like Marcus. I thought, excuse my French, I looked at, it's a fucking shame that I can go to the field today and there's a 17-year-old kid who has no idea who Marcus Nielsen is. And I'm thinking like, man, this is a dude that literally defined how we play today with his style. He came in the sport when it was like, sit back, roll your guns, talk it up. That was the game. It was chess. And he came in and just flipped the board over. He didn't care.
Yeah.
And, his light shone very bright, for the time he was here. He lived 1,000 lifetimes compared to most people,
he did.
That there is. And he was a huge inspiration to me, man, because I thought this guy has a story that needs to be told. There's hugely influential people in this sport that just, you don't talk about them. I mean, not to keep pulling people out, but Todd Adamson's another great example. I mean, that dude is a fucking legend. I mean, this is, to me, and I'll argue to death, he is the best back player of all time. If he would come to the game of paintball today at age 18 years old, Todd Adamson goes on to be another legend again, the same way. You got the dreamy pillow.
Dude, he made this for me. Marcus made me this little dreamy pillow and it sits in my trophy up there. I think about him every day. So
dude, I love that.
That inspires me that you're that this whole entire thing is cornerstoned off of Marcus and his passion for the game. So he lives on forever through this.
Dude, and he was a cool dude, man. The first I didn't get a ton of interactions with him throughout my life, but obviously he played around my area when I was growing up. The first interaction I ever had with him, watching them kind of practice and play, I just asked him a simple question of like, how do you find the timing of when to go? And he literally just said, fuck him. That's when I go. And that was it. And I just said, like, this dude is wild, man. Like, he is wild. But
he's so wild.
Yeah, man. And one more thing I want to touch on with Marcus, because to me, this is big. So I kind of talked to his mom, Rita, on and off. I try to interact with her I can. She's awesome, man. She raised a great kid. She was huge in the person Marcus became. And, obviously, she has a lot of love for the game as well. And I kind of thought about the whole idea of what we do at Iconic with honoring legacies. And one thing to me I really want to do is kind of with the awards too, is how can I tie in these kind of historic, like groundbreaking type guys? So after kind of talking to Rita and running it by her and kind of, gauging how she felt, I kind of made a decision. I'm going to name the Offensive Player of the Year award to Marcus's namesake. It's going to be the Marcus Nielsen Offensive Player of the Year award. Wow. And that's awesome. One thing, I was super excited that Rita was on board for that because I think that's a great way to kind of honor Marcus because he's huge in this project to me because, his story not being told is what drove me to just say, like, I need to tell the stories that matter and kind of put my passion into that. That's kind of where I come from, man. It's a thing of passion. I don't do this shit for money. I don't care about doing sponsors. I don't like even the news thing, man. I don't really care about breaking news. I'm not out here trying to like rush and do clickbait stuff, man. Like I said this from the beginning. Alex Frazier was the first person I told about this project to. And from then till now, I still say the same thing. I don't care if one person reads this or a million. I just want to know if there's someone out there like me, some 10 or 12-year-old kid that was like me when I was that age, and he reads this and gets that same kind of excitement that I got when I was a kid, kind of, looking up to and kind of like,
oh man,
looking
it's
at these
so
players in an immortal sense. You know what I mean?
We got to have that. You have to have that. And thank God we do in this very moment because of people like you, and
dude, and people like you guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think I know history in the game pretty well. Some of the stories you guys pull out are like,
I know.
I hear them. I'm just eating up, like injected into my veins.
Well, for us too, every episode we learn new things about, like, we think we know these guests. We're like, oh yeah, it's going to be so-and-so coming on. We're like, it'll be a great show. And then by the end, we're like floored. We're like, wow, I had no clue that they knew this or, these stories came up. It's just been really fun for us too.
Yeah. And Marcelo says this to me. He said this to me more than a few times. The stories are important because they make you give a shit. I mean, like we were talking about this in the sense of like football earlier today. How many people watch 10 games a weekend of teams they don't give a shit about because they care about the story of a specific guy on that team or how he's going to do in fantasy that week. And that's the element I really want to bring into paintball. Like, so many guys dedicate their life to this game, and I just want them to be recognized and have their story told. You know what I mean? And with the awards, I can do that a little bit because, you know, these guys that we're nominating, I'm trying to tell a little bit of a story of their season with them. So it's something I can kind of archive, and it's something we can look back on in 5 or 10 years and say, hey, that guy was one of the best guys at this that year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, I mean, imperative that we have that. So thank you, man. Absolutely.
Dude, I think I did my goal though, man. I got through the whole episode without you asking me the question, the PT.
We're not done yet, buddy.
Yeah, we're not even close.
We're not done yet.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'll go hours more if you want, man. I love it. This is a fun conversation.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got the iconic question for the iconic creator, you know, of the whole thing right here.
We do, exactly. Quinn, I did want to kind of circle back a little bit because you did send us this email. Are we able to talk about all of the offensive players, the nominees?
Honestly, if you want to jump into it, the offensive player of the year is a category we feel really good about right now. I mean, I feel really good about it. I think the guys we dialed in are very close to our final 5 that we're going to be ready to announce here soon for the Marcus Nielsen Offensive Player of the Year award.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are looking at the list. Pick a name and we'll start talking, man, because there's some hitters on this list, man.
Yeah.
There's one that I think I don't know that I would have on this list.
Call me out, man. Let's talk about
Archie Monomer, Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, he's an insert player or you know.
Here's why we looked at Archie at this spot. So essentially the offensive player is just looking at these all-encompassing guys. They're guys, they're basically fall into 2 categories. One, you're a Blake Yarber where you crush one thing so well on the offensive side that we look at you in that role. Another way we look at it is we're looking at these ultra versatile kind of like Swiss Army type guys. A guy like Harrison's like that. A guy like Archie's like that. A guy like Malloy is like that. But the reason we looked at Archie is if you really watch him through the season, every time that team needed an offensive threat and they needed to get points back and get their feet under them, they were sending Archie as the one into the Doritos. He was finding his way into the snake and closing out games wide on that side. He was kind of hunting through the center. And I think that's why we looked at him. I mean, I'd love to hear a little more why you think he's not an offensive player of the year type of guy.
To me, I think an offensive player, it's kind of similar to your discussion of if you have on one team on the Dorito side, if you have Dorito players switching points back and forth, I mean, Archie's doing that. He's switching back and forth from a 2 or a 3 to a 1, right? So it's that same argument that you make about the Dorito players. I definitely see your point. You're right. World Cup is a great example. Anytime they needed, you know, against Impact, especially, Archie went off on the Dorito side, right? But I just, you know, when you think of Archie, I don't think you think of him as an offensive player. He can be offensive, but I would classify him in that insert role for sure. And, you know, I think Harrison Fry, you make a good argument. He's that utility player, but always in the front, right? So it can be the front on the Dorito side, in the center, and the snake side.
I'd love to hear your thought on him. Like, I mean, obviously he was a pretty solid guy last year, but I mean, he has been phenomenal this year. I mean, a lot of infamous success came from the fact that basically anywhere they put Harrison on the field, he was just generating eliminations. Like he was never hamstrung. I mean, I'd love to hear what you guys think about him.
Yeah, he's playing the best he's played ever.
Oh, and for sure.
It's showing out there. They had a really good season and so close to, I mean, even at World Cup, you know, being in the finals and they had the first tournament of the year where they got second off of that really crazy close game there. And they've, as a team, been playing really well. And Harrison has been that missile, that attack that you can count on to go down a side and get 2, 3, you know, maybe clear out the whole team and really get it done out there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I would like to go back to the Archie thing, just to you know, keep ping pong and kind of
for sure.
Talk through that. Talk through that a little bit, because again, like insert player, like by definition, that is what Archie does. You need him to go to the Dorito side, he does that. You need him to play the 1, he does that. You need him to be the 2 and be a lot, he does that, right? And I guess the only reason because I initially looked at the list and didn't think too much of that position. But then I was like, you know what? Offensive players this year, hard not to have Greg Sewers in that conversation, I feel. The first event, it was through the center that was like relentless attack, and he played so well in that center, right?
Yeah, Greg made it a little tough, man, because of course, yeah, like you said, that through the center, he was a monster when they had that weird kind of block in the middle. But I just think when I traditionally, like, if I look at, like, if I'm looking at a team and I'm thinking like I want a Dorito player, like Greg's one of the first guys I think of. Like I still primarily look at him as like he's a Dorito 1 to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this year he didn't do that, right? And we're trying not to have these awards be based off of, work in the past.
I mean, he did a lot of damage in the Doritos this year too. You know what I mean? I mean, he was really good for that. I mean, the last team of the year, he was super good. Chicago, he played over there a lot on a very tough to play side, and he was effective for them.
The event they did the best in, he was playing through the center and was hands down the most dominant center player in Orlando, I think, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe argue, I mean, Laval looked pretty good in that middle, but I think Greg was certainly in kind of a league of his own. I mean, you could argue they probably don't make finals without him doing that because he was huge for them in the center.
Yeah, and
totally.
I think I would have to rally for my boy Chad George too. I think he played some amazing offensive paintball this year as well, and it's good to see.
We're looking at one of your guys for sure.
Fedorov is unarguably, offensive player of the year caliber and can take that any day of the week.
What he did on Marcelo, the Dorito side.
I'm kind of getting you fall more in the school of like the Fedorov or Blake kind of category where you're just looking at the guys who are just those grinders at the one spot and they're just always going forward kind of guys. Are you looking at, or what do you?
Well, it's the offensive player. Yeah. So for that category, absolutely. I'm not looking for someone who sometimes plays that role. That's an insert player. That's a 2. That's somebody that can do both very well. Right. That's, it by definition, it is the offensive player of the year. So it is that relentless attack. Like when you play a team, it's like, shit, we got to keep guns on this guy because he's just relentless in creating offense in different areas of the field, different situations, down bodies, up bodies. Doesn't really matter, right? That player is going to attack and do it with a high level, make the right decisions. To me, that is what that, role or that award means, but again, you've made great, counter arguments each time. Of course, I know you put so much time into this, so I know these are well thought out. For me personally, I don't think I've seen the insert list. Do I know the insert list? Does the public know the insert list?
Yeah, that's out, man.
It's out.
That was the one we got a little bit of heat on that one for some of our picks. I personally was fairly happy with the list. I think looking at it retrospectively, kind of looking back, I may have pushed a little harder on one of the players. But I think when you look at an insert player, I mean, it's hard to not argue. Meter is a fucking animal. I mean, I think when you look at an insert painter, Meter was, we're talking about the departure of Archie. I think Meter is going to shine even more now for X. Because, really, he plays a similar role in a sense as Archie, but I think his gun, like off the break, may be even better than his. You know what I mean? He is really good. I kind of get your point with Archie. I mean, I'm a little split on it myself because I still think of Archie just, when I look at an offensive player again, it's the guy I think of like, okay, if I look at X Factor, when it's heavy and it matters, who's the guy they're trying to get offense out of? And I think it's Archie, like almost at all times. I mean, you could maybe argue Billy, but Billy's such a pure snake player. It's hard to look at him anywhere but a snake player category.
So if those are the rules, don't you think that a player that does split time with, like JC or Brandon can still be nominated if when they play the work they put together on that Dorito side or wherever, right? Say Chad George split time or, look at Alex Frazier, the way he played in Chicago. Yeah, he split time, but look at how he played when he was in the snake and what that did for the team. That, doesn't that kind of, go hand in hand there?
Oh, absolutely. The more and more I talk to you, I think you're molding my view a little bit on it. I think it's great with the awards. One thing I will say is me personally and all the people we have involved, we're always willing to be fluid with these things. Obviously, we kind of have our base definitions and each guy kind of has the base way they look at any certain category. But I for sure understand where you're coming from. And, and again, our conversation earlier wasn't to say we wouldn't consider, Justin or Brandon, because obviously when you talk about Dorito players, those guys are never going to be the last guy, in the lot waiting to get picked. They're getting picked early. You know what I mean? I certainly kind of agree with where you're coming from.
This is why these conversations are so fun. And this is why ESPN has just hours of content on stuff like this, because the reality in sports, when you're looking, certain people just value different things a little differently than one another. And honestly, one's not even right or wrong. Like your point is very valid, that X Factor, absolutely. When they need offense, that's a great argument. I think it's a fantastic argument. My argument's good too, right? And so it's like, which one do you place the value on? And you can have that conversation with players on their play style. It's the stat conversation, right? Like, do you value 30 kills in one game, or maybe 10 kills in one game, but 5 of them came in the overtime point? Like what is more valuable?
Like even
to
we
you?
said, like someone like you. I mean, I bet you I could find matches you don't even get 5 kills, and again, you were probably the most critical guy in that match.
You won't find a match like that, but
well, so it's like I ain't under 30 any of them matches. No, but you know what I mean. There's so again, what you're saying. It's why I love these conversations, because there is going to be guys that just say, kills are the most important thing. But, then there's guys like me. I tend to gravitate more towards the nuance personally. When I look at guys, I look at the little things like, again, I say it all the time with a defensive thing. It's not easy to do it, but it's not that hard to go out with 11 pods, just roll your gun. You know what I mean? But it's hard to roll your gun and then be able to make the decision of when you got to pull it off and counterpunch. You know what I mean? And that's the stuff I look for. It's why the more and more we have the conversation, Tyler's been a guy we've talked about what we call the double dip, where it's guys we look at for more than one category. It's why Tyler's been kind of emerging. Obviously, he's one of our Icon of the Year nominees we've announced. But we've kind of been slowly looking at him as a defensive player of the year potentially too, because again, he's really, really good at that role.
Yeah, that's to define that is so tough, because
but I think it's important that we do define it, because we don't have that.
Yeah, the things that Tyler has pulled off this year in that defensive posture, like being, you look at defense, what exactly does that even mean in paintball? Down bodies, and somewhere along the back line, and the team is pushing into your side of the field trying to score a point. I guess that would be the best way to define defensive play.
Well, I think too, I mean, you can look at someone like, it doesn't have to be bodies down. I mean, you take a defensive posture a lot. And I think it's in the sense of you're taking a spot with the thought process of, I'm here to control the zones, make sure our guard is strong, and get QB guys up the field. I think a lot of what comes with becoming a defensive player is being a QB with that. And again, you and Tyler really do that role a lot. When I look to defensive guys, that's one of the first things I look at is who are the QBs out there. Let's narrow it down to that, and then we'll dive in. Because I think it's hard to argue a guy just because you play in the back. If you're a role player rolling your gun out of the back line, I might not really consider you a defensive player because you don't have the intangible stuff that goes with it. You know what I mean?
Well, what I was going to say to top that off is the amount of times that Tyler was in that spot in the back line, 1-on-2, 2-on-3, whatever it was, and to pull off those situations is like, it's just nuts. It's insane how many times that's like the ultimate defense, is like everything else has gone out the window and it's just you now, It's just
and another shining example,
and you're protecting the buzzer.
You want to talk about defense. Every time I've been asked this of what is defensive play, I've used the same example 100 times. Marcelo in Chicago versus the ML Kings. Y'all are down 2 points against a bad team in the prelims. Not a super critical match, but you don't want to drop that on Saturday. You know what I mean? They smash you guys in. They take it down to a 2-on-1 against you. So it's you versus Kyle Berry. And I think Betancourt might have been alive in the snake yet as well. You get Betancourt off the field. Kyle Berry is way down the field. I mean, you're stuck in the worst bunker on the field, in a shitty can bunker off that D side. Kyle's 30 feet away from the buzzer. That's the moment that defines a defensive player in. What is that guy's posture? What is his decision-making? What's his thought process to get out of this point? You know what I mean? And that's the example I like to use, because the way you played that was perfect. not only did you make sure you were well set, you found the bodies, got a guy off the field, and made it a manageable 1v1. You basically led Kyle to the spot that you knew you could get him off the field. The second you got him there, you attacked and got him off the field.
Oh, yeah, this was the first momentum. This was the first point of the match. Yeah, when I bunkered Kyle.
I think you guys were down
for first point of the match.
It was the first point. Yeah.
Yeah. First point of the match.
Then. Yeah. But again, that's a huge momentum shifter because that's a bad team.
It is. It sets the tone. Yeah. It sets the tone for the game in a way.
You got to argue, say you do that, Kyle smokes you off the field. You guys probably are feeling great going in the pit 1-0 against a bad team on an event that you otherwise have been smashing, Dynamics
can be really fragile in that type of stuff, especially a team that, on a team like the ML Kings, you give them a little bit of hope in a match like that. Now they start feeling themselves a little bit, and momentum is everything for those younger teams. Right. Yeah. And so you're right. They win that first point. We go into the pit. We're not feeling great about it. Who knows what could happen.
I'm super proud. Why
I like to use that moment, man, because that's a huge moment that you can look at and say like that, that was played like a perfect. Everything you need to do to get the guy to a spot that was manageable for you to get him off the field. You did out of a bad spot. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you did you were doing out of a can, like the hardest 1v1 spot there is, because you're either coming out right or left. There's not much nuance to that,
Well, actually, I was in the corner, which was a tall cake, which isn't great. It's still not great.
And sideways, so even worse, because you're sideways in a tall cake.
I lured Kyle into that can that was like kind of right off the
right off side. The box almost.
Yeah. And so once he got there, I was like, oh, yep, perfect. Now I have like this blind zone that I can block you out and come this way. I actually initially tried going into the Dorito 1 because I was hoping I could cut the gap and he wouldn't see me, but he caught me and I realized, holy shit, I don't want to be here. So I jumped right back into the corner and then played it out. But
yeah, and I thought it was great because when you listen to the commentary, man, it kind of starts to put it, oh man, he's gonna let him get the buzzer. And I'm just thinking like, nope, he's not getting this fucking buzzer, man.
Yeah, I'm super proud of the Kings too, like how they performed at World Cup. It's good to see them.
Lewis Bencourt, one of our breakout players, this man was playing D4 a year ago.
Yeah.
And he is now an effective snake, like a good snake player.
Is that true? I hear you keep saying that. He was legitimately playing D4 a year ago.
Marcella, that's crazy. He's coached a little bit. Like, the NRPL, which is the NR League. Yeah. This man was playing in a D4 NRPL like a year ago. That's wild.
2020.
Well, I think it was the end of 2019. So it's like a year, basically.
Okay. That's still like a year.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's why. And it's amazing because talking to him, I was like, hey man, like, how did you do this? Like, how did you go from like essentially a nobody to like carving out a role in the pro league? And it was great.
So awesome.
His
he just flew out to that tryout, huh?
Yeah. He basically said he made it there and he just basically absorbed. He talked to Kyle. He said, what do I have to do to be effective on this side? How do I do this? How do I do this? And he said, every weekend, just grinding, asking the right questions is how he got there.
That is so huge right there. That talking point is so big, man. Asking good questions, being hungry for information. It's everything, not only on the field, but off the field. You got to ask good questions and really care about the process. If you do that, you're going to get amazing results out of that every time.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. We keep going off on tangents, but I'm enjoying it. It's fun.
That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We were getting in the defensive conversation. We were talking about offensive player, then we started talking about
defensive player. That's your fault, dude. That's your fault. We were, that's 100% on you there.
But yeah, anyway, so let's go back.
Yeah.
If I give you my straight take, like obviously I'm only a part of how this process gets decided. Mm-hmm. You got to think Blake is a little bit of a front runner here, right?
I don't know how you don't choose Blake. Yeah, I mean, Blake is, and I'm not being biased there. Again, you look at moments and look at what he did for the team. He was such a crucial part of the team's success and just relentless through the center for like offensive player of the year. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Dude,
again,
I don't think you can find a point he wasn't offensive. Like, I don't think he ever isn't that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't just one event, it wasn't just at Cup. He easily could have been the MVP in Chicago, right? I think if it weren't for the fact that it was so special the way Alex was playing and just kind of like felt right to give it to Alex because he really balled out and really was so dynamic over there. it would have been Blake for sure.
Yeah.
You know, Blake was stellar through the center. And he's
Oh.
really been like that all year. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, for all the PTG fam out there, Blake sent us the footage of him jumping
Yes.
in the ice river, and we uploaded that to the story. So be sure to check that out. I think it
Oh,
should be there.
is it up? Is it up on the
I
story?
put it on the story.
Dude,
It'll
I
probably be
love
there
that.
for a couple hours once you listen to this, but
Yeah.
it's up there.
That's so
Dude,
funny, dude.
I said it before to Alex and Ryan. Blake is just like a lumberjack who had like his favorite beaver stolen, and he needs to get it back. And he has to get to the beaver at the start box. You know what I mean? Dude's
Yes.
he's a mountain man now, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, his story on PTG was insane. Like all his adventures and everything he's done, and
He's
just
so animated too.
yeah, he's a great dude. Blake is one of my favorite people of all time, and really cares about paintball, which is nice.
Yeah, man.
You know what would be
a crazy story.
Yeah, he does.
You know what would be cool too to maybe add into these, and it just kind of sparked this idea, and it's because of Fedorov, because the way he played offense in Philly, I mean, that performance is one of the best performances I've ever seen in paintball. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know that I would give him Offensive Player of the Year because he did not do that, you know, in Chicago and Cup. I mean, it's Konstantin Fedorov. He's fucking dynamite. Love watching him play. But dropped off just, you know, a little bit there, and also kind of switched up his position. Cup, he was playing a little more in the center, still attacking through the center. What about also having like a performance of the year? Like I would give something like that to a Fedorov. You know, again,
yeah, I mean, that's honestly a good idea. We kind of have a category we haven't put much out about yet. It's not necessarily performance year, but it's move of the year, which kind of aligns a little bit solely
Not
because
really.
of this. It has a few factors to it. It's not just like, hey, that was a really sweet move. It's like it takes in the weight of the event, the moment, everything. So in a sense, yeah, but I think it would be something to think about in future years because performance of the year, I mean, I think that's great because, I mean, you know, even this year you could put up, you know, the Alex Frazier Chicago performance against the Federal Philly performance, maybe against the Marcelo World Cup performance. You know, there's a lot of good performances in the year. And I think it brings a cool conversation along because it really forces you to dive into the body of work.
Exactly. Yeah. I love the performance conversation, a full performance of a whole event, because it's like art, how a player can develop his game throughout the event and how a player will shift the way that they play a side or a spot, you know, and the picture, the painting, when it's all said and done, you know, when you get to the finals and you get through the finals, if you do win and you have a performance like that, it's so dynamic in the way that it evolved throughout the event that it's to me, that's like, fuck, that's paintball, you know, that is the elite level shit. And
Fedorov
Dude,
is definitely
speaking of
in the running
performances, Tyler.
Yeah.
I was talking about this with Maddie. If it wasn't for Fedorov having arguably one of the best individual events ever, like you were right in line for like an MVP level performance at that event.
100%.
Like you were sick that event.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah, we were all going off, man. Team ball is what it's all about, and Fetty is an absolute dominator on the field. So always rooting for him to you know, do great things, and I'm so proud of him for that performance that he had. Because like Marcelo said, it was one of the best performances of all time down the Dorito side. That guy was just.
I mean, how epic was it when he
feasting.
was sitting in the finals, 25 feet off the Dorito one, just ripping, no concern for anything going on. He just saw something and he said, "I'm doing it." You know what I mean?
That's it, man. He's an absolute legend forever. I mean, the guy is one of the best paintball players to ever play this game. So to be able to run alongside that wild man is a dream come true.
Dude, I feel like he's still like 20 years old too. Like he seems so young. Like it's wild. And he's been playing like 20 years.
He's got a young spirit and a baby face, man. He's aging well.
What other thoughts? I mean, Tyler, Marcellus would give me his thoughts on offensive player. Who do you feel needs to be on this list that you're not seeing right now, or who maybe doesn't belong on it in your mind?
Like I said, I think Chad George has a really good spot in there. He's always offensive. The guy is always sending it somewhere and going and getting work done, bunkering people out, causing a ruckus. So I could definitely see Chad being in there as well.
Yeah, man. He's really interesting when you watch him play. Because I think a lot of the Snake players have pretty definable styles.
Yeah.
He's like very fluid in the Snake, how he plays. And it's really fun to just watch how, someone of his caliber of IQ in the snake, how he takes on every individual snake. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And his connectivity with the team is superior. The guy is able to really take in information really well and pass the ball around like we talk about on the team, and allow us to make good decisions together off of that.
For sure, man.
So who would you take off of the list?
I think, no disrespect to Arch, but I think he's more like that insert like we talked about. And then maybe have like a George in there or something like that.
I mean, what do you guys think of this is one that we've been arguing a lot because it's the biggest yin and yang of anything. Malloy, for the reason he was good, the team was not as good. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously they played fairly well by standards of a lot of teams in the league, but when you're talking the elite top end that they're used to, they did not have a good season on that shorthanded roster. Like, how do you feel about a guy like Malloy there? Because can you potentially be an offensive player of the year if your team, didn't really see a lot of success?
Yeah, it gets back to the conversation, right? Of what do you value? And that is a tough one because I feel like he didn't have a great year, but then I think back to certain points and certain moments where he did go off. He did still go nuclear in certain matches.
He's like the honey badger. He just sends it. He doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. So like for offensive player of the year, I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, I get that his team, dude, he didn't have much to work with this year. The poor Russians, man, they don't have any of their guys. They don't have their coach.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
I mean, it's been brutal for them. And he still was consistently just attacking all over the place and succeeding in it too. And, I think since I feel like the Russian Legion have always had this issue where people don't like, if Archie misses a tournament, it's a big deal, right? People talk about it. If J-Rab misses a tournament, people talk about it. If like Karslev has been gone since Vegas of last year and people don't really talk about it, but he was their number one attacker on the Dorito side. It's like, oh, there's another Russian guy that stepped in. They're not all the same. I hope everybody knows that, right? They are really
I think
good.
It's easy because people can't
you don't
pronounce
know
their
them.
names.
Exactly.
It's a foreign concept to them. They just figure it's the Russians. You know what I mean?
100%. You just assume that somebody else is going to step up into that role and be able to do it just as good, but it's not the case, right? So, I mean, they were without Kirill, which is huge. He's like the glue of the team. He's the guy that is joysticking things on the field, coming up with game plans in practice and at the event. Their coaches, not having their coaches, I mean, the coaching staff has been such a massive part of the Russian Legion since that organization, began. So that's huge. Again, you're missing Kirill, you're missing Karslev, some of your top players. It's going to make it really tough. You bring in brand new players. I mean, the Wild Dog players that they brought in, besides playing that Pro World Cup last year, they're like D2 caliber players, and not hating on them. They did decent, but very unrefined. They have one gear and it's attack. And when it came down to like really breaking down the game and making smart moves, they didn't have it. And you could see that in like Malloy's body language and definitely in Smotrov's. He didn't have a great year, but they didn't have the confidence because they knew they were so depleted. And they knew that, like, if I don't go and shoot 4 or 5 people, we're going to lose the point. So I'm just going to send it. I believe they had that mentality. And so it was a very off year for them.
I felt that way with Smotrov with them. Because when we were looking at snake players, obviously Smotrov's a huge name. But he struggled this year in an odd way, not necessarily like obviously the skills there, the talent's there, but it kind of goes great along with what you said, Marcelo, not having like Kirill and, they're bigger time guys, like that puts a lot of weight on Sergey, Smotrov and Malloy. And obviously, Malloy and Sergey, they're veteran guys. They've been there. They've seen a lot of seasons. They know how to react in poor situations and good situations. Smotrov's still pretty young. And you kind of mentioned that too, Marcelo. And having that level of weight on you is hard. I mean, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. But like I said, at the same time, I feel like they were playing with this freedom of I don't really care as much, but maybe not Smotrov, I guess like if I'm trying to look back, what's kind of funny is I probably watched the Russians the least this year out of any year ever, because they were like almost never lined up to play us. And then, it just was never, they were always opposite. We were morning, they're afternoon, or vice versa. There wasn't like a huge need to watch unless they were playing one of the high profile teams. So, I'd either see a little bit of it live, but I didn't like really study them as much this year. If I'm being completely honest, but I know what you're talking about. Like Smotrov definitely didn't look like himself out there. And yeah, I don't know, why or what that is. I think, he's still a young player. He's still pretty inexperienced, when you compare him to players like Tyler, Chad George, Mouse, the other players that you have on that list, Fedorov, Archie, Malloy. Blake's been doing it a long time. Harrison's up there and he's the least experienced out of all of them, but he was kind of a breakout player as well. Is he on that list as well? Did he double dip?
Sure.
Yeah, I totally
originally we were just looking at him for that, and then he just kept playing so damn good.
Yeah.
But speaking on that too, not to harbor on it too much, I think it's important to kind of realize too, like you said, a lot of people kind of discount the Russians in that sense that they just assume, oh, it's always going to be there. I mean, you really got to think, man, the guys they don't have this year, that's like if you had Dynasty and you're like, hey, we're taking away Yosh and we're taking away Ryan this year, good luck. Like that makes a big impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that did happen to us this year. I feel like it did. I mean, we didn't have Ryan in Orlando. And it obviously was felt, he did suit up Sunday morning.
But his presence is there at least, you know what I mean? Like he's around.
Oh, you know what? Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
That's big.
100%. Yeah. So the Russians coming all the way over here and not having that at all. Absolutely. Yeah.
A foreign country without that elite. I mean, their coaching staff, if you look at just a long-term historic span, that's the best coaching staff by a mile. There's no program that has, I think, touched that.
They set the bar. They set the bar,
I mean,
set the
modern
bar for watching
coaching
film.
is built how they did it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I absolutely love the list that you've compiled here. And I even still think that Archie, as an offensive player, I've seen him turn it on and do that as well. So there's a lot of different components that make up that list, but I think that you guys are definitely hitting on that as well.
Yeah. I mean, what you guys seen already, I mean, we've touched on 3 categories and we're going on like 3 hours. I mean, like I said, that's why I was saying to you, it's me and Maddie, man, we'll spend 3 hours sometimes on one and we don't even get to anything conclusive. We just go, okay, we got it down to 15. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. It's a war of attrition.
And we always say the same thing. We say, I wish this was 6 people instead of 5. And then I say, well, then we would just be wishing we had 7 and then 8 and
You know what would help these conversations a ton? Stats.
I mean, 100%. Because if someone brought up someone like, say we're talking about Rainey or something, you could just put this guy got this many kills, his win fluence was this much, and that just discounts you or gets you in. You know what I mean?
Dude, how cool would it be too to have stats like you break down where the kills came from? Like this player got 25 kills out of a Dorito on this field, and 15 kills out of the tower behind it. Like that would be cool because
that would ultimately be the dream, because it's almost like looking at like an NBA shot chart where you can see percentage from zones. I think that would be really, whatever happens with stats in the future, that needs to be an immediate concern area, because that would be big. Because a lot of these conversations we don't even have to talk about it, because say we're talking about a guy like Archie, if I think he plays one side more than the other, I don't have to argue. I can just see it on the paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you still got to talk about it though. I'm telling you, this is what sports needs. Like, dude, Quinn, I am a huge fan of what you're doing because of exactly this. We get to sit down and debate sports. That is such a fun thing to do. It makes the topic of paintball stay on your mind. Again, I will turn on and watch people debate about football. And I sit there and I watch for about an hour and I'm like, okay, idiot, turn this off. This is meaningless. Because really it is, but it's so entertaining, and it's not meaningless if you're a football fan, and you care about the personalities and the players, and basketball too, and paintball's the same thing.
And it's not meaningless if you got big money in the fantasy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even what you're talking about with meaning, man, like we're talking about Archie right now. I guarantee you there's some kid sitting in Texas tomorrow listening to this that's going to say, fuck these guys. Archie's the best offensive player.
No. Tomorrow, I think when they listen, they're going to say, fuck Archie. He left us. Damn it. There's a lot of, there's a lot of sad Texans. Man?
That's why I like it though, because these conversations bring that out.
Quinn, you got to stop interrupting me, please, dude. You gotta stop.
I'm passionate, man.
I know, but just to round that off, because I did say that, you know, a lot of angry Texans with Archie, but I want to ask how you guys feel about that too, because this happens in an athlete's career. In my opinion, he's given everything he has to that organization, right? And so if I were part of that fan base, I would be thankful for the time he spent and wish him his best on the next part of his journey. Like, do you feel that way?
You're crazy if you think otherwise. Like if you
Totally.
watch that guy as an X Factor fan won your organization, I mean, that 2019, 2018 run, I mean, if you watch that, you think like, oh, screw this guy. Like, you're an asshole, like 100%.
Dude, that was a special run. That was a special
Yeah.
run in 2019, and how he played as the attacker too. Like, his biggest moments over there were offensively on the Dorito side.
I mean, Philly, one of my favorite moments in paintball to this day was that Russian X Factor match in Philly that literally came down to the final point to who was going to win the Golden Barrel. Like, that was sick, and Archie won it.
And he goes off, yeah.
So Marsh,
as the offensive player,
like, there's obviously got to be some reasoning. Why did this move happen? Archie moving to Dynasty.
Well, I believe that we should have Archie back on the show so he can answer that question. I think, you know, he was maybe just looking for, well, everyone knows he was considering retirement, right? That was a strong consideration. So
yeah,
I think he just kind of lost a little bit of the zest of playing, you know? And I mean, again, ever since we played with Archie in 2019 over in Europe, I've, you know, built a pretty good friendship with Archie. And throughout this last year too, you know, I'm like, I've always told him since then, I would love to play with you again. I think it's an exciting thing and something that we can do. And, you know, I think he believes that it's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of excitement around Dynasty right now. And so it just kind of makes sense. You know, he's played with Dynasty before. And we have a really special opportunity to go on a big run, you know, and do something really like you said, Quinn, kind of like, you know, the early 2000s with Dynasty. You know, we really do have a chance to recreate something like that in the modern era. And it's gonna take a shit ton of work. And I mean, I'm looking at someone that definitely wants to stand in the way of that right now and has every you know, capability of standing in the way of that. So it's, you know, it's a great fucking story. It's a great story. Archie loves stories, right? You know, that's what he's about. He's had a storybook career, and it kind of is fitting to that as well. So you know, next year is going to be really exciting because there's going to be a lot of teams that can really throw down and really compete. And I think you're going to see some of the best paintball you've ever seen.
I couldn't agree more. And while we're on that subject, they did release the dates for the NXL events for 2022. We got March 11th to the 13th in Florida, April 29th to May 1st in Dallas. That's an open event in Dallas. The first one's a major, then another major in June in Philly. Another open at Capitol Edge, August 5th to the 7th. That's in Sacramento. And then September 9th to the 11th, Chicago major. And then, of course, World Cup, November 10th to the 13th, back out in Florida for the big one.
Can't wait.
Marcel is going to dye his hair again, and we'll go back at it.
Nah, you just, you know, it's a one and done kind of thing. I don't think I could run that back. Too much pressure. Way too much pressure. Right.
Guaranteed
Quinn, I'm sorry. Hey,
guaranteed you're dyeing your hair again.
Oh no, sorry. I was looking away from the screen because you were saying the schedule I was looking at. I won't address it on the show. I was just reading something that's fucking egregious to me. But.
Oh yeah.
No. Let us know, dude.
I did see that too.
You just saw that, Tyler? You know what I'm
talking
about?
What are we seeing?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't do that here.
Bro,
but
I will 100% do that here if you want. I'm not the kind of dude that's gonna. I don't. You know, I know.
Well, because it is BS, Quinn. You're doing a phenomenal job.
I'm big on the positivity movement in paintball, but I also think it's really important. Honesty is really important.
That's why you don't have to do anything because you're doing the right things. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to do anything because you're doing the right things. And when people take shots, it's because you're onto something. You're moving correctly, and there's nothing to be, you know, nothing to even speak on about that. I do want to talk though about for next season, they're counting 5 events for the pro overall standings.
That to Marcelo. That is interesting to me because again, we've been 4 events here for a little bit now, at least. I'm curious how that will go because, you know, if half the teams do one open and half do the other, I kind of find it odd to count that event because, I mean, say Impact and Dynasty are at one but not the other. How are we going to count that in the scores? Or if Heat's not at one, how are we going to count the other? You know what I mean? That's
the part that I think. Yeah, that's the part that I find weird is you might get one of the minors where 6 of the top teams aren't there. So, one of the bottom 10 teams comes and wins that event. They get winning points for that. I'm curious I'm sure they've thought about that. There's no way they haven't thought about that. And there's got to be a different, some kind of, scoring. I'm not sure. I would like to find out about that though. Cause that's the one, setback to that whole idea, that concept.
It's great. We get to play a whole nother event essentially.
So I am excited to get back to 5 events,
Yeah.
and we had 4 events last year, but that was because of COVID. We kept pushing back the first event. We weren't sure if we are going to be able to host an event. And then the season before was only 2, but again, because of COVID, right? Before that, it's been 5. So to get back to 5, I'm excited for. There was way too many breaks this last year. Those breaks were so long, right? In between events this last season. Don't you guys agree?
I don't know. I didn't really honestly feel like it was too crazy. Obviously,
felt like an eternity in between events, dude.
Yeah, it was weird. The first like 2 events were like that, and then suddenly they're like, "Hey, you got 1 month till the next one." You know what I mean?
It felt like from Chicago to Cup, I think was 7 weeks, and then the other ones, in a traditional season, it's usually 6 or 7 weeks in between events.
I think, you're right. So there was one that had a couple more weeks.
Totally. It was it was 3 months.
Yeah.
The one was right towards the end of April, and then we didn't have another event till like June. Like that's that feels like a long break. You know what I mean?
And it's been a nightmare trying to navigate everything. These days it's been crazy. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot more paintball going on in the future. And it looks like we're going to have 5 events to score for the 2022 season.
Well, one thing I want to ask with the 5 events too, I'm confused about.
And that's just for pro.
Yeah. So I'm saying, but it's an open series. So that means it's an anyone's take. I mean, what are they going to do? Have 40 teams at these things? Because if every pro team wants to do it, they're not going to turn down a pro team. But then why are you calling it an open event? Just make it another pro event at that point. So I'm kind of interested. I think they got to tread carefully how they do it. Because if you do a draw where certain teams play certain ones, you open yourself to the criticism of, well, this team wasn't there. How can we count it? And, if you bring every pro team, then it's not an open anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's I'm super curious to hear more about that. I would imagine they would offer the first 20 spots to the pro teams first, right? I feel like that would probably be how it goes down, and whatever is left over is what they open to the public. But what if all 20 teams say, "All right, we're coming"? Then it's kind of just a pro event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially at these, being that they're doing it at Giant Sports and then Dave's Field at Capitol Edge, you can only hold so many teams at these fields. I mean, if all 20 pro teams show up, that's going to really start piling the teams in there.
Well, I mean, teams are teams. If it's going to be 20 open teams or pro teams, doesn't really matter, right? And they can't go into 40 because they do have limitations, with the webcast and simple daylight. So. Yeah, I'm curious. Not really sure. Maybe we can, get the inside scoop, talk to Tom, somebody, and see what the plan is.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I do want to dive into your paintball story a little bit for a second. And how did you get into paintball, Quinn?
I got in completely randomly. When I was a kid.
Birthday.
No, not birthday, man. I'm like one of the few non-birthdays. So where I grew up, I kind of grew up in like the middle of nowhere in like a really like mostly Amish community. Like I myself wasn't Amish, obviously, but it was like a mostly Amish community of people. There was only like 500 or 600 people in the little town I grew up in, out in the middle of nowhere. And then just randomly one Christmas, we opened up Christmas presents, and me and my brother both got paintball guns.
No way, dude.
And
that's awesome.
I was only like 8 years old at the time, and I kind of figured I just got one because my brother's 4 years older than me. I just figured I got one because my parents didn't want me to like bitch and cry that I didn't get one. So we got that, and then kind of just started doing the old like shooting each other around in the woods behind our house because we had like 20, 30 acres out behind us. And then a couple of the neighbor kids that weren't Amish all started to get paintball guns as well. And then we started to host these like really big kind of like outlaw games out on our property where we would find any kid we could within like a 20-mile radius to come out. We would used to have like my mom would go out, or one of my friends, Kevin, his mom would go out and just fill up these crates of CO2 tanks. and we would just pile them up at the beginning of the day and just play all day long. Like sometimes I feel like we would play like a single game all day in like an 8-hour period of just like hunting each other on this like 20-acre property.
It reminds me of almost like The Sandlot. It's like all nostalgic like that, kind of like how you know that great baseball movie The Sandlot. He's like the games just lasted all day, you know, he just played all day.
They really did. And I talked about this a bit on with Carl. Like the thing that kind of got me into like actual legitimate like going to a field and starting to play was one of the kids that we brought into our crew. We were going to play on his family's property one day, maybe like 10, 15 minutes away from where I live. And he's like, hey man, like I got, my uncles wanted to come out and play against us. Like, they're really good. They're like pro players. And like, to me, I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I'm like, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old or something at the time. So like, I didn't even know like there was a thing past just playing in the woods at your house. And now looking back, like we show up, it was like 20 of us against these two guys. They're now thinking back, they're both rocking like really sick Angel LCD setups. They have like the Revies on top, big air tanks. And like, you know, you're thinking, go, there's a kid. You're like, oh man, we've been playing a bunch. It's just like two guys. We're going to kill these guys. And then just proceed to get annihilated and overshot all day by these guys out in the woods. And then as soon as the day ended, I'm like, I have to, like whatever they do or have or how they play, I need to do that. Like that was amazing. And then that's where I kind of started jumping into actually going to fields and getting into tournaments and stuff. But yeah, no birthday party.
Nice, dude.
Dude, that is a legendary story. I love that.
Hell yeah. I'll never forget when I was like 10 years old playing with my older brother, some of my nephews, my dad, out at this field. This dude bunkered me with a Dark Angel. Oof. And he shot me in the neck. It hurt so bad. I like threw both my hands up. It was not nice, you know? And he felt so bad realizing I was a kid that he ended up letting me play with his gun the next game. And that thing was so fast, so much fun to shoot that it like that moment kind of hooked me even more. Cause I was like, oh my God, did paintball guns do this? This is sick. You know, this thing rips. But
dude, I can go grab mine.
Yeah.
I got my Dark Angel in the other room.
Do you?
Yeah.
Your collection. Yeah, absolutely. We got to go get the gun. Dude, his collection is insane. He's got the craziest amount of guns that he's been collecting. And I think actually some of the PTG fam, he's like working on a gun for them, the PTG world. Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing, dude. Quinn's the man.
And if you had an Angel back then, it was a game changer.
Like it was a legitimate game changer.
Yeah, look at
that Dark Angel right there.
Bro, look at that thing. For all the listeners, the YouTube is lit. You already know what it is.
Replaced it with it has a PMR virtue board in it from Arrayo. So it has like all the modern modes. I take it out when I play at practice sometimes. I got the 10 DPS mode on it and everything, man. But
how funny is it?
Piece of history.
Yeah, how funny is it, Quinn, that those things used to be considered like super small? It was like so light and like
it's massive.
It's a brick. If someone handed me that thing now, I'd be like, "What is this? What is this?"
When I have it at the field, man, people are like, "It's weird." Like it's weird to me because like old guns are so normal to me, and like people come up and be like, "Oh my God, is that an Angel?" Like they're like ancient dinosaur guns.
How much does one of those go for these days?
Like a dark LCD like this that's in like mint shape, and this was an Avalanche owned gun. This I could probably get like $850 for. But like you know, the vintage Angel market varies a lot. Like there's some that are like IR3s are worth like nothing, but then you have some LCDs that go north of like $1,000 now, and there's guys that are like actually like building new versions of them with old bodies and stuff, and getting like there's a guy right now doing a project. I think he's like $1,800 a gun or something, and he's pre-sold all of them.
Yeah,
but yeah, man,
that market is definitely hot. And when I was a kid, I had a ice blue. It looked like glacier ice blue, Angel LCD Fly, and that gun is my all-time favorite gun. Like just. Like when you pulled up to the field and you had that thing and you were out there running around, people were like, damn, look at that thing, you know?
Dude,
Yeah.
that's why I have such an insane collection now, because like I remember as a kid all the time, that's the reaction I'd always have.
Yeah.
Because for like the longest time I started out, I just shot an STO autococker. So like when I'm going to the field, I'm seeing like, like a 2K2 Timmy just like ripping with
Yeah.
the Halo B. I'm just like, oh my God, I
And
wish I
of
had
course,
that gun.
dude, I gotta shout out Bob Long, the Dragon Intimidator, the big body long bolt dragons,
sick.
all-time favorite, greatest gun ever. And the Rippers too. The Bobby Rippers were also really good.
Hey, you saw that Ripper I just
Yeah.
restored, I think. I think I sent you a
Yep.
picture. That thing is sick.
Hell yeah, man. I love the work you're doing. And I think you're actually helping out one of our PTG World Discord members too with like a build or something of that
Yeah,
nature.
yeah. George has like a super kind of rough shape angel that I'm rebuilding for him with some
Dude, that's
modern
so
stuff.
rad. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
going
man.
down. Check out PTG World, people. We're having fun in there. And we just love the community. Thank you all for tuning into that.
Yeah, 100%. And I share secrets in there now. So come
Yeah, he
on.
does.
Dude, epic. What other secrets can you share? Can you share some secrets on here? Give
We
us
got
something
Show
good.
secrets.
now.
Come on, give us something
Well, a
good.
couple of them are like I definitely can't talk about, like
Yeah.
for sure. I try to not leak stuff when I can. I don't know, man. Like, it's
Marcia's
tough.
putting you in the hot seat.
I know.
He's put us in the hot seat the whole show. Yeah, what do you think about this
Well,
guy?
here's the
That
thing,
guy.
man.
These are our peers still. It's like
Tell me the real thing. Is Ryan Greenspan actually good? I need to know.
is
I'm
he
kidding.
actually good?
I'm kidding. But no, so again, the tough thing with rumors is, I mean, Marcel, we talk about stuff all the time. I try to not betray people when they tell me this stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's tough. I mean, like the Archie news, I feel like I've known about this. I've been digging up on that forever. And I was like, I just want to break it, but I don't want to be, an asshole. I think really the biggest stuff I just can't speak of right now because it's, it's big.
I
big
meant
stuff.
more stuff that, no, I'm not asking you to rat other people's news out. I meant more stuff that you're working on or maybe some stuff with the Iconic Awards. Like, I don't know if you've released the whole list of the like icon nominations or all of them or anything that you plan on doing next year. Stuff that's yours to release.
Yeah, so I could actually give you the whole rundown because I kind of, I try to map out as much things as I can. So we still have to roll out the rest of our nominees, and then once all the voting's 100% wrapped up, we'll start awarding stuff. Alex has the headbands coming out soon, which would be super cool for the exclusive headbands for all the winners. But going forward, I've been working on a huge story with a total legend player, Angel Fragoza.
Yeah.
Been grinding a story out for like 4, 5, 6 months now. That's going to be, I think, like my masterpiece story because he is the guy that never had his story told. Like, he never talked, super quiet, just like consummate professional killer for Dynasty. And like his story is incredible to me because he was essentially he was Dynasty before Dynasty was even conceived as the Iron Kids. I mean, this was a dude that was grinding at Mare Island for as like far back as like 92. Just making all the pro players pull their hair out trying to shoot this 14-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
Damn, dude.
So that's going to be a story I'm
wait.
excited about. I've been really working on that one for a while. I guess I could just talk about it here because it's been the one thing I kind of been holding up my sleeve for the Iconic Awards in general. The final thing I'm going to be introducing to this whole thing is what's going to be called the Iconic Legacy Award. And kind of what the thought process, what I want to do with that, I was thinking in a way, like, how do we kind of honor these guys that are retiring now, just recently retired for the last few years? Just a way to kind of show like, hey, man, like, I want to tell your story. I want to show that what you did mattered to me. It mattered to this sport and just kind of highlight their careers in a sense. And those are going to kind of be longer format stories where I'm going to do like 3 or 5 guys each year. Not like a Hall of Fame thing. I don't want to get into like pulling guys out from 20 years ago. I like a person was like a guy like Drew Templeton, man. Like that guy had a stellar, really long career where he was a killer. He just recently retired, and like I think telling his story would be awesome and just a way to kind of honor like you did so much for this game, man. Like, and you were huge for Midwest Paintball. And like I want to kind of look at something like that, every year. And the hope is starting after the 2022 season, I want to kind of bring out like a hardcover book every year where we're going to have, all the iconic awards winners in there with their stories profiled out from that previous year, all the iconic legacy guys, all the major stories we did that year, just kind of an all-encompassing archive of that season, to where it's something 10 years from now, Tyler, when you're retired and done and, your kids are old enough, young Theo, when he's old enough, you can pull it out and say, look, man, like, here's my story. This is what I did. Like, there was a time I was better than any human on earth at this thing. And that is big for me, because I just think that'd be really cool. It's a struggle I think a lot of pro paintball players face, is they put their life on the back burner to pursue their passion and their skill in this sport. And Carl is kind of suffering from this right now, to a sense where, like, his kids never got to watch him play. So he never has anything to show, like, this is what I did. And I think honoring guys like that in a way where we can tell their story is huge.
I think that is so tremendous, man. Absolutely. A must. And I love also the Angel story. I think that is going to be so monumental. Man. His story, shout out to NorCal. He is from Vallejo out there in NorCal. And man, that story is going to be huge, because paintball, we talked about this a little bit earlier, paintball saves lives. You know what I mean? It truly does. And it helps so many of us in so many ways to connect with our tribes and our community, and really have a great outlet where we can stay healthy and have fun, which is hard to find these days, to be honest, man. And paintball is one of the best ways to get all of that in one package and have a great time out there. So I think that definitely archiving those legends, we need that, because they mean so much to where we're at now. The lineage of the whole game is through those players, those times and those moments, and they help bring us to where we are in this moment. So respecting that and documenting that is a must for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Quinn, again, I've said it before, I say it again, dude. So thankful that you are taking on this responsibility, because that's what it is too. It's a big responsibility. It's a big burden that you've put on your back, really. And being able to deliver this, I hope, there's good consistency and people receive it well as they should, because again, you're doing this for, no return other than, just the pure joy you get from preserving this. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it fills up your cup, as Tyler likes to say all the time. Hopefully it fills up your cup, with joy. And, I want you to know that it is a tremendous thing for the sport of paintball. It's so crucial for not just the players themselves, but for, again, telling the stories and giving people a reason to care, so that they do want to turn on the webcast, so they do want to watch, so they do want to follow their favorite players. It's just more tangible reasons to follow the players that they love and enjoy. So it really is crucial, man. It's very important. And yeah, man, that's exciting. The legacy.
If you want one more thing for the pipeline as well, this is something I haven't talked about at all to anyone.
Oh, baby.
There we
go.
Like
the Sage people. So next year, I'm going to be bringing on, obviously right now I have a photography crew that kind of does this stuff. Rob Moore from Flockhouse is one of my staff guys that does a ton of my photo stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be bringing on a videographer as well next year, because I'm doing a new thing, what I'm calling the icons. So it's going to be guys almost in a way like what Contract Killer did a little bit, where it's guys that I kind of sponsor through Iconic for the year, and kind of give an actual cash incentive to kind of help their journey as they play in the pro division.
Wow.
Because we kind of talk a lot about capitalization for pros and pros making money. It's a tough thing to do. So I think it's another kind of cool way to give back. And it's a way for me to really try to highlight these guys that are the elite of the elite, and just try to give them that little bit extra to say what you're doing is worth it to me, man. You're grinding, you're killing it. And, and wow. The reason I wanted to bring on a videographer for that is because, I kind of want to capture their journey as we go, and then just release that stuff out to the wild. It's not going to be some paid thing or behind some wall. I'm just going to put it out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Dude.
Jeez, dude, you win the lottery or something and just to try and make it rain on the paintball world?
I'm a busy guy, man. I got a lot of stuff going on.
The Contract Killer thing's interesting. I was on Bob Long's team when that was all going on, and that was a really interesting thing that they did. Like you said, just players from across the board, having that iconic umbrella and showcasing that lineage that you're doing that's amazing, man. Wow.
You were super badass if you were part of the Contract Killer squad back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume it'll be the exact same to be part of the Icon. Icon Killer? No,
I'm just going icons. Just one word.
Just the icons. I love it,
icons.
dude.
It's just like, it's like your gang of dudes. Because I'm hoping
the icons.
Down the road, then I can keep kind of working it out, because I want to eventually put it to the point where there's like kind of an exclusive booth at an event as well. And like, just kind of like a cool thing in general to just like give a little extra perks to these guys. So like you said, I mean, back in the day, the CK guys were badasses, man. Like they were, that was a sick crew, and it's about giving these guys like more coverage, giving them media to promote themselves, just anything and everything, whatever. Just because, I like just growing, like, there's a lot of people I think that like to say grow the sport. I don't think I'm some like champion of that or anything, but like I just personally, I don't really have any motives within the sport personally. Like I enjoy playing, I enjoy practicing, I like writing stuff, but like I don't really want like some company that's making money. I don't really care about that. I just like doing it. It's fun.
Well, PTG fam has your back 1,000,000%, and we'll be supporting you the whole way through, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go, dude. We're going. We're en route
to the moon.
Nearly to the moon, baby. Man, that's awesome, dude. That has me super excited. I can't wait to see what that looks like next year.
Yeah,
100%.
That is a great idea.
It's gonna be fun, man.
Yeah. No, that's a special thing.
Hey, I gotta know, the team that you started out in the beginning with, what was your very first team name?
It was the best name ever, dude. It was Toast.
Toast.
Yeah, so the name was Toast, and the first event we played, we wore like just dress shirt polos because we thought it would be funny, and it was a nightmare. We left that with white dress shirt polos with like 6,000 hits on them. Didn't win a game, and we're just terrible.
Toast.
That's so good.
Y'all are toast.
Well, so yeah, because as a kid, that's your shit. Like, you guys are toast. You know what I mean? And you just get wrecked all day. So
that is. So
and that was
funny.
back when that was back in the day when like a local event was like, there were like old dudes there that were really good that would just destroy you, because it was like there was no rankings and stuff back then. People just played. There's cases back in the old days in SoCal where like some of the Ironmen were playing these like nonsense local tournaments. You know what I mean? So it was brutal back then, man. They really let you wear it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, dude.
And what was your jersey number? And did that number, was it just a random number, to have any significance to it?
I've always been just the number one forever. I don't know why.
Number one stunner.
Number one stunner.
I pick it because I'm number one in my head and number 99 on the field. You know what I mean?
Dude. Hey, you're out there having fun. That's all that matters, man.
Dude, I got my one last question though too. Tyler,
okay, all right.
How the hell did you used to make the corner gunning 20 balls a second before they put the cap on when you were like 13 years old?
Well, I was about 2.5 feet tall, so it made me a lot smaller target. That's a great question.
And we're way better now than we used to be. Thank you for answering that. This is perfect. This goes along with all the shows.
Man, that some of them 03 teams would give that 2021 Dynasty team.
Don't lose credibility on the show, dude. A lot of people listen to this.
I'm kidding. That argument to me is insane. If you pick any team before the year 2015, they're getting absolutely massacred by. I mean, even I think like mediocre modern teams are going to massacre them. The game is so nuanced. I mean, back then, there wasn't even communication back then. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, hey, man, he's in your mirror. And like, that's your communication.
Hey, man, he's in your mirror.
You know what I'm talking about? You played it, man. Yeah. Like, that was the communication. I don't think games would last. I think points would be like 20 seconds at a time. And it would be like an old extra match where you'd be like, they just got to stop this, man. This is brutal. To me, I look at it more, there's specific players you can pull out of that era that I think could survive now. But there's definitely not entire teams that wouldn't just get massacred.
Well, and again, look, they could catch up, if you took certain players out of the era that were at the height of their game and you put them into this era and they had like a year to get caught up and fundamentally, catch. Yeah, of course, like they were the top for a reason. The game, it was very different, but also not that different. Like I was watching some of the serial killer footage of like Matty Marshall, Oliver, dude, Oliver was so ahead of his time. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. I'm like, he's like the one guy that he looks like he's playing today's game. Back then, his technique was a little bigger than what players are showing you nowadays. But yeah, exactly. That the infamous sidearm, dude. Ryan was the best at that. It was the whole chicken wing. But goodness, it would be, yeah, goodness.
Yeah, man. Like I said, there's certain guys you could take. Like the one guy I argue a lot is BC, man. I think he was playing a way ahead of his time style. He was like, I think the true first prototype of that like ultra versatile kind of like insert back player. Like there was a lot of units playing the back then that didn't have a lot of legs. Like BC could make you hurt bad if you dropped the zone off the snake side and he had a hole, you know what I mean? And like, I think he could catch up. I think Angel right now, you could like, if you took 2004, 2005 Angel, I think he could be an effective role player now at that level with no catch up. I mean, he was special talent. But I think a lot of guys would need time to catch up.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's fun to think about, and the game has changed so much in just the last 3 seasons. You know,
oh my God,
it has just folded and multiplied itself into this whole new paradigm that we're sitting in now, where people are like, you show up at a paintball tournament, they all have guns, they're all shooting really straight, they're all playing the game really well, you know, working together, and it's cool to see that level being, you know, showcased for all the people to see, because it's the best it's ever been.
I mean, Tyler, take you 3 years ago. Is Tyler 3 years ago winning 1 point against you right now in a 1v1? You know what I mean? Like, people have progressed so much so quick. It's just wild.
He's gonna win a point for sure. You know,
we'll get one.
Yeah. Because 3 years is, again, like, there's a lot of evolution, but at the same time, it's not. That's why I say that conversation. Like, and I agree, you know, before 2013, but I would maybe even go a little further back on that. That era, you know, we're talking 15 years now. That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. A lot has changed. A lot has changed. I forgot who said it, Tyler. It was someone on the show, I think, but they're like, just go watch one of the old videos. Just go watch. Was it you? Was it you that said it? Dude, just go watch one of the videos, dude, and then, you know, come back with that argument. Yeah. I love it though, dude. Go ahead.
I sent you that picture, Marcel. You didn't think that was good form? That guy shooting like this?
Elbows out, side to side.
He's leaning backwards with the elbow out.
That's
shooting
right.
sideways.
That's right. I do remember you sent that. That's hilarious.
Dude, the old
I think Archie's the only one that can still pull off the really old kind of weird forms. I think it's amazing, dude. Archie will like stand in a corner shooting from his hip and just smoke a guy shooting from the hip.
Oh yeah.
He's the only one that can pull off that weird stuff.
Don't forget about Yarber too. He'll have his gun
I
on the
was just
ground.
gonna say, Yarber takes the cake, dude. I have seen Yarber do shit on the field that is just so hilarious. It is so from the hip, like wrapped around a Dorito. I can't even explain. There was a period of time, this was like 2018, 19, where photographers after every event would send me a photo of Blake because they knew I'd post it, and it would just be a funny photo where he was like, doing the craziest things. Like, I have this one photo, he's literally fully laying on the ground in like an army crawl position, prone, because he like tripped, he like fell. So instead of trying to get into his bunker, he was like, I have to protect myself now. So like, it is the middle of an X-ball field, you know? And it was funny. It was definitely a thing. You know, photographers, if you're listening, please, if we have more photos, let's get back to that, sending me those photos of Blake, because every event there's new gold, I promise you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yarby.
Hey,
I don't know, man. I don't know when it switched either. Because I feel like, I mean, Tyler, you were around Rich in the old days, man. It's not like they weren't doing these crazy drills for like gun skills and stuff. But it's hard to deny how like the one shot capability now is like ridiculous. Like sometimes I see shots and I'm just thinking like, there's no way that he made that shot. You know what I mean?
I know. And I think that's why Cali pumped out so many legendary players, is because we were training a little bit differently, you know, than everybody else, I think, across the board, a little bit more maliciously maybe, and with a little bit more grit, I think. But the drills were really focused on making those shots count, and being great gunfighters, and it shows in a lot of the top players. They're phenomenal gunfighters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, Quinn, my dude, we are getting up to the 3 hour mark here, and we still have some Discord questions from the PTG fam.
Wow, I didn't know we had any.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Oh, you're
When
You
did
know,
you ask them? I didn't see anything.
we have a separate, so you do have access, but we do still have some exclusive stuff for like the goats and things like that. Yes, but we do have a guest question
I don't get to
channel.
hear about that $1 million contracts you guys have been signing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Can't wait for that. But yeah, we do have a guest question channel. So we asked in there and you got some love, dude. You definitely got some love.
Yes, sir. A lot.
First question up, and this is a great question from Texas Hammer. What's the most iconic thing you saw this season?
I would say the most iconic thing I saw by far to me, Chicago playing on Sunday. Or sorry, it was Saturday. As Alex Frazier is running from the god down the field, shooting one-handed sideways gangster gatting, hits a guy, and as he's running down, he starts shooting the guy on the near side as he's screaming and pointing, I shot that guy, as he's running. And then he comes off the field like nothing happened, like it was totally normal. And to me, that's so iconic because I think that captures what Alex is, man. He is just this like, he's the Eggman, dude. He's just like this super quirky, unique, just like how many guys will be running down the field shooting gangster gat as they're diving, yelling that they shot a guy. You know what I mean? It's
well, none, because they would get cut otherwise. He's the only one that's able to do that because
he can pull that shit off.
Because he pulls it off. Dude, from Chicago, there's a picture of Alex jumping over the snake beam and bunkering a guy, but it's so, to me, it's like one of the most iconic photos I've seen of this season. It's like you could just, it's Alex, it's kind of goofy, but it's kind of athletic, and it's like probably a big moment in a game, and he's just dunking on this dude over the snake, like kind of flying over it. So that's funny, both Alex. Yeah, 100%, man.
All right, we got Alex Cooper. Quinn, here's tonight's iconic question. What does paintball mean to you, and what has driven you to start Iconic Paintball? I think you kind of hit on that a little bit, but what does paintball mean to you?
I'll touch again, man. It's camaraderie. Like I said, I'm a weird dude outside of this sport. I've never really been a social person, but there's just something about this sport. When I play it, I'm around it. I just kind of blossom in a sense.
It's the best.
And again, that's really what drives me, man. Like the people in paintball are just great. There's so many just scumbags out there these days. But I feel like it just comes to paintball, man. It's all love. Like you could go on a field and get overshot and annihilated, and you're walking off the field, you high five the guy, you're chatting, and it's good to go. Like there's no bad blood. It's just the camaraderie of the community is just incredible to me.
Love that so much, man.
Hell yeah, man. I love how PTG World showed out with the iconic questions. CB2K, name the most iconic piece of gear over the history of paintball. He says by gear, goggles, marker, tank, pod packs, etc. I say we just go with like the most iconic piece of equipment that has been released.
That's easy, man. The JT ProFlex for sure. Everyone who has ever been anyone in this sport has worn the ProFlex at some point in their career where they were dominating. I mean, if you look at the pictures of this sport that are, iconic and critical to our history, it's Oliver in a blue flex with a tinted blue lens, upside down strap, just smoking guys. I mean, it's not just Dynasty. Excessive. I mean, JR flying on the field, Thomas Taylor with that red mohawk, and, John Richardson with the stickers around the entire outside of the lens. I think every big game through history, someone's wearing a ProFlex. I think it's hard to beat that mask as an iconic thing.
And then marker.
Marker, you got to go with the Timmy, man, but I'm a little biased. But I think, when I think of the golden era, man, I think of just those insane cheater board 2K2 Timmys with a Halo B on top. Just, shooting so fast you can't even hear the individual shots. And it's just massive. They got the drop forward on it with the huge tank. It has that super high profile trigger frame with like the chrome sides on it. I think for an iconic marker, man, it's hard to beat like the 2K2 Intimidator.
Mm-hmm.
I can dig it for sure. Yeah.
I love that. What about a pod pack?
Pod pack, I am going to the Extreme Raids, yellow and black, man.
Over NXE?
Oh my God, man. When I think of an iconic pack, I think of like World Cup 2001 or 2000, where you have like Todd Adamson ripping out of the back and he has those clear pods in his black and yellow pack, has the Extreme Rage face on it, man.
I get the argument.
I'm nostalgic though, man, because I think about it too, man. I mean, in a way, that pack kind of changed the pack game too, because the predominant pack at that point was the sideways, the horizontal pack, and then Todd kind of came in and said, "Hey, let's do this," and they fit, they could fit 20 pods in their pack then. But I don't know, I'm a little bit more of like an old school fan guy, so you're gonna get that. If you're talking like, even modern packs, man, the strapless stuff from Bunker Kings is sick. Like, and I mean, everyone's using that technology now. So, I mean, those are sick packs.
Yeah, a lot of Heat and Dynasty, when they were sponsored by HK, was wearing the strapless packs. And I definitely do got to give a shout out to NXT because those packs were legendary too.
Bro, the NXT packs were legendary for sure. Yep. For sure. They were like synonymous with the Pro Flex, with Dynasty, they had that. Oh my goodness, the most comfortable waistband.
Hey, I'll add one more in that iconic product category.
Nice.
The straight shot squeegee.
Oh my gosh. That is yes.
Because before that thing, before its utility, before its use, that was a fashion item.
100%.
That thing in Oliver's back, man, hanging on the lanyard, like that's iconic, man. How many run-throughs in your life did you watch Oliver go down the field and shoot 4 guys with that thing just poking out of his back?
You best believe I'm bringing it back.
Yeah, man, I'm all about it. Just start doing it.
I've worn it a few times over the last couple years in certain events. Nobody makes a good straight shot anymore. That's the problem. I've bought one and been really stoked on it, and then the bottom thing like rips off. Nobody makes a good straight shot anymore.
They don't need to anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They don't need to. If anybody knows where I can get a good straight shot from, let me know. Send it my way, please.
Yeah, man, you used to need them to be strong because it was for when the angel bolt would get jammed between the breech because it rotates sideways. You would literally have to ramrod your bolt back to get it unstuck.
Yeah, totally. I still to this day actually think they're pretty functional. Sometimes I'm like, using a battle swab, I feel like I'm pushing some of the paint back into the breech, which you are, and it kind of smears on its way out. Whereas the straight shot, you push it in, it goes sideways, you push it all the way down the barrel and pull the paint out. I mean, it's squeaky clean, yeah, but it's, can get shot on your back. I think that happened to me one of the events. I did get shot in that and I took it off. I was like, oh,
Well, what's the chance of that?
It's 100%. I know. I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back, dude. I love it.
We'll look out for that. Yeah. Hot news right there. Straight shots.
Hot news.
All right. Droog, he's wondering, this is a really important question. Butter on the counter or in the fridge? Are you keeping the butter?
Neither, because I am vegan and I don't eat butter.
There we go. Look at that. Boom.
What about I can't believe it's not butter?
I have occasionally used random ones over the years. So the vegan ones are weird, man, because they're the same in the fridge or room temp and there's nothing that can go bad in it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll just leave it on the counter for 3 days and it doesn't matter. But
oh, that's funny.
That's
no
awesome.
real preference.
Nice.
Dude, that's awesome.
All right, young Stevie, what's the most outrageous rumor someone has tried to send your way? What's a piece of paintball news you were shocked ended up not being true?
Oof, there's a ton of them, man. I get tons of rumors sent to me that are so egregious. Definitely. Did we talk about the Revo one or was that before the show?
We did a little bit, but we could hit on that for sure.
So yeah, the most egregious one I heard here was the guy telling me that Henry told him personally that they're selling Revo and they're done.
Yeah.
And I'm just to me, why that's egregious. I'm they had arguably one of their best seasons, of recent memory. They finally have some really sick young attackers. It looks like they're finally going to have the chance to spend some money this offseason. I'm just that's so egregious to me. And I would say maybe what they said, the one that didn't come true, that was a rumor.
Yes.
I don't know, man. That's tough. The one rumor that I don't know if it's a rumor or not, and this is going way back, that I've always wondered the validity to it was the Ryan Greenspan to Iron Man rumor, way back when Oliver went. Because the whole way the rumor goes is Dave actually preferred Ryan as the guy they built the team around, but it just so happened by fate and just timing, Oliver got the offer first in front of him and he took it. And the what if Ryan would ever go there went away. I don't know if necessarily that's a rumor that didn't come true, but it was always something that's been kicked around without a clear answer.
I think it's true.
I mean, I agree, man. I would build a team around, if it's 2005, 2006, I'm building a team around Ryan for sure. And that's no strike against Oliver because he's a monster, but like Ryan brings a lot of off-field stuff into an organization and running it that I think is critical.
Yeah,
it's tough. Oliver does too,
tough.
though. Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
I don't think you can say that they made the wrong decision because the Ironmen got catapulted to the top of the league, won back-to-back championships. Oliver was definitely big leader in that, and then Dye really exploded.
Oh yeah, and I did hear that too. I think that
Yeah.
I think you're not too far off on that. I think that there was something like that where Ryan, was gonna go, and then somehow it happened that Ollie made the move over.
Oh God,
Do you
how
know
interesting!
anything
Because
about that?
minor detail, like I think
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Dude,
it's
Marcelo
a true story,
knows.
but
He knows.
I
He's
would
got
He
have
knows
no,
everything.
Yeah, I
I
heard
do not.
Dynasty has like a little book that the co-owners get access to, like that thing the
Uh-huh.
president has that's
Uh-huh.
in the president's desk.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah,
all the
exactly.
past Dynasty owners write the
Yeah.
crazy shit in it that only they know.
Dude, you
Yep.
know what's crazy about that thought is if that were to have happened, one, would Ryan still be with the Ironmen or would he have come back to Dynasty like Oliver did? Two, would Oliver have stayed with Dynasty or would he have taken an offer elsewhere? So where would that leave Dynasty if you lose both of them? Ryan definitely stayed and was the glue, and along with Alex Yosh, you can't discount that. But Ryan was really the one that was getting a lot of offers from other teams, and stuck it out. Gosh, that could have changed so much stuff.
If you want my what if speculation, I think if Ryan goes, I think he's still Ironman today. I think he's still wearing the shield today. I think Dye would be positioned a little differently in the paintball market. I could see Ryan have been becoming very involved with Dye as the years went on, and building
totally.
a strong program on the field, and also doing a lot with the products. I think Oliver would have left still. I just think it would have been delayed a little bit. Tom Ford had a ton of fucking money in that time for teams. I mean, he paid Oliver a lot to just play seven-man events with them. I could see a scenario that he offers that contract to Oliver even earlier than he did, and he goes to Arsenal, and then they just go on, an insane run because they had a sick roster.
Yeah, it's
100%.
definitely an interesting thought there.
Yeah, because they even had J-Rab too during part of that run, I think.
Dude, they had all the young hitters. Like J-Rab was there. I think Callie was there for a little bit. Yeah.
Callie was
Yeah.
not what he is now, though. He really has come a long way.
Well, but I mean, he was there when he was young. Like, say Oliver develops him for 5 more years.
Yeah, totally.
He'd be sick.
Totally.
All right, we got Leffler. Quinn, how do you prioritize the order in which you look at iconic award candidates or winners? Is there one you start working on first? Best defender? What is your process?
Yeah, so the process is really all encompassing. Typically what I do, so my wife only works weekends. So typically when I was really at the beginning of the awards focus, I pulled probably 30 or 40 guys for each category, just one by one from Icon of the Year straight down. And then I started narrowing it down. And then from there, originally this was only 3 awards. And then every time I'm like, well, I have to do an award for this. Then I have to add this. And then I started getting the ideas I got to do a community thing because I'd love to honor some of the community guys and the creators and stuff. But yeah, the process is kind of it's long because I start with a lot of names, and it's more so of a tell me why they shouldn't be more so than tell me why they should be. Because when you start with that many guys, if you pick 40 guys that play, maybe say the Doritos side, it's hard to just start saying well, let's do this guy for this reason. I more so look at we can't pick this guy for this reason and then throw him off the board and then kind of narrow it down that way,
Yeah, awesome,
Absolutely.
man. All right, we've got from Mr. Oysterling. This is George. You're building the gun for him.
My man. He plays in my field.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we all, there's this little field called APOC in New Jersey.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not a huge spot. When we started playing there with my team, they had a decent turnout, but it was mostly lower divisionals. Then we came in, the whole newbies organization came in. It's really turned into like a hitter field with a lot of good teams. I mean, this year we had the number 4 semi-pro team in the league out of our field. We had the Division 3 champion out of our field. We had the Division 4 champion out of our field. Like, it's a little tiny field with one turf field, and they produce a lot of good teams. But yeah, George plays there.
Awesome.
Shout out to APOC. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to George. George is awesome. I know him. I've met him. I've worked with him in his team when he was playing with Gator Gang. George is just an amazing dude, man. I'm excited he's in the group, and that's awesome that you know him too. So anyway, and Mr. Oysterling, the reason that's his name in the Discord is because him and his family own like one of the most badass seafood places on the East Coast. Did you know that, Quinn?
I did not know that.
Dude, their Instagram, it's like, whew, I don't have it off the top of my head, so I'm sorry. But see if we can get that from them and share it. But it pops on my feed all the time, and it is just dynamite seafood, like one thing after another. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's man, looks delicious. But anyway, his question is, what are your goals as a player, and what are your long-term goals in the industry at large?
So as a player, I'm certainly kind of winding down. I've been playing on and off for a while. I've had a ton of injuries I've kind of struggled with over the years from outside of the game that have certainly limited my ability. I still find myself with the playing stuff. I really enjoy practicing. I enjoy the process. But the events are certainly more and more stressful as my professional career has grown outside of paintball. I think for the future, I'll probably play, at least a season or 2 yet with the newbies here. And then from there, I'll kind of start to really wind down, probably just do more of like the mechanical stuff just for fun. And I think in the industry as a whole, I don't really have goals per se. I kind of have my hands in a lot of things. I have a lot of projects I'm working on now with different companies that I'm not privy to talk about. But I think once they can finally start coming to light, the picture can be a lot clearer for my direction. Again, it's
dude, you're going to do an iconic gun as an award for the Icon of the Year. I know it, aren't you?
No comment.
But why do I have a feeling you're working with
so I will say it's something. I will say it's a lot big. The big project is a lot bigger than that to me, but I can't talk about it. Okay. But no, I don't know. It's hard for me to say like what I think my goal is going to be. I don't really have a goal, man. My goal is just like produce stuff that people like reading about and talking about, and just like have fun. I don't really like have a desire to make money or anything out of it.
Doesn't get any better than that, man. Just keep playing for the love of the game there.
For sure, man.
We got Jolo. What kind of question would Iconic Paintball ask Iconic Paintball?
That's like a weird Inception type thing, man. I don't know, because I put a lot of thought into my questions. I don't know, man. I don't know if I have any.
That is a hard one.
So hard. I don't know. What would your iconic question be for Iconic Paintball if you could ask one?
Let's see. What resources do you recommend that have attributed to your success in what you're doing?
So I would absolutely say being a student of research is important. Having the ability to just really dive in and be like, when I say be a student, I mean like sell out to always be well researched. I have times when I write articles where I'll spend like a lot of time digging through a lot of footage for like a 5-second clip just to clarify, like, did he get shot off the break that point or not? Or, I think it's important to really sell out for that with your research, especially if you want to produce kind of like creative writing and content in general. Because a lot of times it can be easy to just say like, I don't feel like doing that, and just kind of like phoning it in. And I think that's where your quality drops a little bit. And I think it's important too, to just always make sure you can be as well edited as possible and well structured. I was lucky enough when I was in college, I took a lot of professional writing courses. That certainly kind of helped with how to structure and kind of speak.
For sure. I
think generally, if I can say one thing, it's just always putting in the effort to be well researched. I mean, even if it's something as simple as just making like a little Instagram post or something, just, I made one the other day about Archie. It was just afterthought kind of thing, but I just kind of thought like, even if it's a minor thing, it's important to be well researched and make sure, what you're saying kind of lines up and makes sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and thank you for that piece you did about the NFT that I own, which is the first paintball NFT ever.
Yeah,
I
man,
really
that was a
loved
fun one.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of exposure in the crypto market in general.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed writing it just because I love the utility that NFTs bring, and I really sold
Totally.
out to that. But I thought it was cool too. I think it's an important moment because this, no one knows. In 5 years, NFTs could be the who the hell was dumb enough to buy that. It could also be the thing in 5 years we all look back and say, like, oh my God, like I could have bought the first paintball NFT for $100.
Yeah.
I think that's something. When I saw you got it, I was super jealous because it's like I would love to have that in like the iconic portfolio media. But like, man, that just fits it. That's such big motivation for Tyler, and like that's an important moment to him. And but yeah, that was
just
a
$1
fun
million.
piece to do.
$1 million, you could have it, Quinn.
Yeah, it is.
What about I'll give you $1 million in some shit coin, and one day it might be worth it.
Damn, that's almost a good deal.
It is almost a good deal. Yeah, exactly. Just pick the right one.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I also love that you have that, Tyler, because I know how much you love NFTs and you've been so into that space lately. So super cool that you got that, because that is badass. And I agree. I think it no matter what, it'll always be special to you, right? That thing is going to always hold some kind of value to you. So
totally. Yeah, it's huge motivation for me at that moment. And then honestly, I think that these photographers have such a big opportunity in front of them to make money and put food on the table for themselves through this way of owning moments. And these are big moments. Like, we're gonna see Rye Guy's gonna roll out tons of these moments. And I think Verb, I wouldn't be surprised if Verb starts rolling out NFTs. I think that we're gonna see an explosion, and also coupled with companies are gonna start to sell products where if you buy this product, you get exclusive access to this NFT, this moment, this digital asset as well. If you buy this gun or you buy this, whatever, you also get one of these pieces of memorabilia, with it. I think we're going to see that come into play too.
Yeah, and I think with the the kind of burgeoning metaverse as well, there's some paintball VR games out there that have gotten some traction. I could foresee an easy scenario where you have like tokenized assets in a sense in the virtual world for paintball, whether it's like one-of-one markers that are NFTs that you can use in game, or a Tyler Harmon edition jersey that you're the only one that has it in the game, whatever it is, because I mean that could even be a way players can kind of capitalize themselves and their brand. They can sell virtual assets within these VR games to kind of generate more income for themselves and kind of carve out.
Yeah. Oh, just like in all the video games, you buy the skins, they're making hand over fist money on these skins and all these, adaptations to your player in the game. That could definitely come into play in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting stuff.
All right. So we got from Tom, with lower divisional teams and players D5 through semi-pro making up 95% of the NXL, do you think it would help to grow our sport to promote those players and teams, maybe through an iconic award or article to help promote a sense of pride in the divisional ranks?
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, right now, the divisional thing was just something, it's been a time constraint more than anything. I do watch a lot of divisional paintball and really try to make sure I know as many of these players as possible. It is something I tried to touch on earlier in the year when I was doing event recaps. I kind of tried to touch in to what was going on the divisional fields, who looked good, individual players that looked good. Really, right now, it's a time constraint thing. I do have a guy I've been talking with that I'm going to kind of maybe potentially bring in to kind of help with the writing load a bit. Because then it kind of gives me the freedom to flex around and spend a little more time at divisional fields. Because really, for growth, I think it's great because you can follow guys. I mean, like Marcelo, some of the guys on Wrecking Crew that you're coaching right now, I don't think it's like egregious to make a comment. Like, these are guys that have, the future potential to be pro players. And I mean, how cool would it be to start picking up stories on these guys now? And,
Totally.
The league and everyone kind of learns about these guys over the next year or two, and then they blow up on the pro scene. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. That'd be super special. Love that.
All right. We got Bat. He says, Quinn, what's your favorite paintball collectible in your possession, what would you like to add to your collection of paintball history that you don't have?
So my favorite one by a mile, I don't know if I want to say it because I'm about to give it to as a gift to the person that I got it from. I'll skip that one.
Okay.
My other favorite one would be, I've been looking for it for going on 15 years now, and I put it up on my Instagram recently, was that cat flame matrix.
Oh yeah.
In that water, I know.
Yeah.
So those are super special to me because when I was a kid, that was like a gun I saw in a magazine, and I was just like lusted after it. But it was, so cost prohibitively, insanely expensive back then. I could never dream of it. And unfortunately, Cap kind of crumbled very soon after that. So there's a very limited number of them out there. And I mean, I searched for, no lie, like 15 years trying to find that exact one in that. And no, because there's only 2 of them in that style.
Damn.
And I finally found it. A guy in Canada had it, but that's probably my favorite one. And that's probably the one piece of gear I would never, ever sell for sure. And then the one that I would want more than any, I don't know, man. Probably Marcus used to wear a PB fashion headband. For years, he wore it in the early days of the PB fashion movement. I think if I could have one piece, it would for sure be that headband.
Yeah.
Because that has a lot of special meaning, I think, for sure. That's kind of one of the things that my most prized possession is, a headband that I'm gifting to somebody. But yeah, it's I have a lot of collectibles, man. I collect a lot of stuff. I literally have crates and crates and crates just stacked up in my various storage areas of just stuff because I like collecting things. So
yeah, I had a cap cocker, a flame cap cocker, like the blue cocker with a really fast trigger frame when I was younger, and that gun ripped. It was crazy.
It's funny imagining 2-foot Tyler ripping on a cocker.
Yeah, I was in the
That's
trenches.
the way it rolled.
Yeah. And then also Ryan Moorhead loves writing. You should maybe reach out to him and see if he would be interested in writing with you, because I know that's something we've talked about and he's interested in writing. So I think there could be something there possibly.
Dude,
as well.
I would love that. I'm blown away. Like some of the pros that I've kind of talked to, or people that have sent me some stuff, like some of these guys are like I did that piece I publish on my Players Journal part of the site, which is like direct pieces that pro players write. Joe wrote that piece, Warrior. Like I thought that was, I read it and I was like the whole time, like, this is like great. I love this. So I'll definitely reach out to Ryan, man, because he's one of my guys, man. So
yeah,
I'll hit him up and see, because I'd love to have a pro player perspective involved just from a storytelling perspective.
For sure. I feel like there was a lot more of that in the early 2000s. You had a lot of players, writing for whatever it was, a magazine or whatever type of tabloid, but there was a lot of pro players writing at that time.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about my inspirations with writing, Rich Telford is one of my big ones. Oh my God. I used to love opening up magazines because he was the most brutally honest writer paintball has ever had. He would just go in, and he wouldn't care if it's his sponsor, the league that just paid him a $40,000 check. He did not care at all. And like, I mean, when they had the whole blow up with like Glenn and stuff and Dave, just put all of it out there the next week, like mercilessly, man. And I think that would be cool to have pro players kind of, getting those things out there again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Those stories are crucial, man. And yeah, I remember that one that Joe wrote too. I was surprised as well. It was really good. Really good. The pro player perspective is dope. Quinn, my man, I think that's it for questions. We got through. There's some more in here, but definitely stuff we already talked about, stuff that we did already address throughout the show. And man, we went the distance.
Yes, sir.
Can't thank you enough for coming on, spending the time with us, dude. Look forward to having the community-based voting for the award. Ooh, door. My neighbor just slammed their door. It scared me. That was super loud. Dude, you know what happened to me this morning? I don't know what neighbor it was. 5:55 in the morning, just started blaring music like so loud for about 20 minutes. I was so mad, even though I was already awake. I was out of bed and I was so mad about it. I'm like, does this mean I'm old now that I'm mad about this music? It didn't even wake me up. I'm already up. I was like, it's just so rude. So rude.
Grumpy man.
Yeah, like,
dude, I love that because I just imagine this guy just blares it for no reason, and then like 20 minutes later, he's like, "All right, I had enough of that." Just shuts it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they were getting ready for work, and who knows? But like, damn it.
Quinn, I gotta say before you go, major shout out to the stash. You got a strong stash game. Marsh, strong stash. We got the
Working
stash
on it.
gang in here. And
Your best stash in the league, Chad George. Love it.
oh, bro, I know. We're getting him dialed in for 2022. He's coming back with the stash.
Dialed in.
Hell yeah.
And thank you, brother, for everything you do in paintball. Thank you for being a part of PTG World and this amazing family. We appreciate everything you're doing in the game, and we cannot wait to see you soon.
Hell yeah.
We'll get these awards rolling for the people.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. It was a ton of fun.
Hell yeah, man. You have
Thank
a good
you,
one.
Quinn. Peace.
Peace.
All right, PTG fam. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. That one was an absolute banger. We went the distance. Quinn can really let it fly. He has so much insight and is so passionate about the game. Really, really exciting to sit down and have that conversation with him. He's probably going to be a regular here at PTG. He was amazing. So, he is in the Discord as well. If you guys want, you could sign up. Head over to ptgpaintball.com, click the Patreon link, and as soon as you become a supporter, it'll give you access into PTG World, which is super dynamite. All right, PTG fam, as always, we'll see you very soon.